Hello everybody, I'm back with another video finally, and hopefully this will clear up some things for people or help them know what direction to look in. Let's put it that way. I don't claim to know everything, and I'm just a person, and I'm just learning just like you are. So this one I titled, Who is Your Real Father and What is God's Real Name? All the new modern scripture studies has people now calling the Old Testament God as Yahuwah. But is this our real Father? That is the question I'm going to ask here. It's a tough question. And one person's little video actually got me started on this in thinking, well, do I really have the right name? Am I using the right name? It was his sincerity, and I don't even know his name. He posted on one of my little replies on the videos, and I went and watched the video, and I was pretty much blown out of the water by what he said. And so I started searching again about the name. If Yahuwah is his name, then why is Yahuwah not in the New Testament? That's a big question. I'm going to attempt to show what I found and believe to be the truth. This was very difficult for me, and I started looking at this because someone sent me that little video, like I said. I had no idea where these questions would take me, but once you see the truth, you must acknowledge it and ask the Father to help you understand. So this is an attempt to help anyone searching for the truth. And I have always tend to look at God as a father figure. So maybe that's just upbringing, I don't know, but I have some reasons for that, and I'll get into that later. Don't knee-jerk on me. Sometimes the simple answer is the correct one. But we've been so ingrained and so taught so hard, it's hard to break away and actually see the truth, because we're just like, we've got this cognitive dissonance. The word Father is used 387 times in the New Testament. The word Yahuwah 0 times. Yet the Son of Man said he revealed the Father. If Yahuwah is not used, that could not be who was revealed. I started searching this and trying to figure out why Yahuwah, if he's God, did this Son of Man not use his name? What I realized was a shock to me, and that we've been totally deceived. Most people tote around a Bible and will tell you it's the infallible Word of God, yet they never have really studied the words. I am called by many names in the comments, such as Satan, witch, deceiving spirit, just to name a few. But what people do not realize is a search for God must come from a sincere place in the heart, not some sense of pride to look correct or just trying to fit in with the masses. I spent my entire life looking for the truth of who God is, and it's led me to some things that were totally wrong in the past, and I'm the first one to admit that. And I'm not worried about saying that, since he showed me these things were wrong. If you look at my earliest videos, it's easy to see how I've gone through like a progression of truth as Father showed me different things. People sometimes are not wrong, they're simply at a different level of understanding. That's why I rarely get mad when people criticize me until they start just blatantly calling nasty names, and then I know their heart is not sincere in what they're saying. Basically, what I'm asking you to do is don't knee-jerk on this, what I'm showing you, but think about it, take it to the scriptures, and then study it out for yourselves. Don't take my word for anything. Don't take man's word for anything. Pray to Father, tell him to open your mind to the scriptures, and then just dig in and look for yourself, because he will guide you. He'll take you through all the little things that go on, and he'll show you. If you're sincere and you're really looking, he's going to help you. Here's a scripture I came across that really blew my mind when I started analyzing it. It's John 4:21 through 23. Jesus said to her, "Woman, believe me, the hour is coming when neither on this mountain nor in Jerusalem will you worship the Father. You worship what you do not know. We worship what we know. For salvation is what we have, the Jews in our books. But when I analyze that word, it's away from. And when you look at the morphology of that word, it's away from. It's to denote a change from one place to a condition to another. Not from that person, but away from. Okay, I went down to the morphology because it's like a disassociation or separation from is what the word really means. So that was a big one for me. And then the next verse says, "But the hour's coming and is now here when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father is seeking such people to worship him." Well, that verse clearly does not say Yahuwah is seeking people to worship him. It says the Father. I was like, okay, why does it say the Father then? If he had meant Yahuwah, he would have said Yahuwah. Okay, so what is this area where we have all this stuff coming from? It's actually the Leviathan area. It's a Canaanite region, and it refers to a group of ancient Semitic religions practiced by the Canaanites living in ancient Levant. And it's from way back in the Bronze Age and the Common Era on forward. They had a great number of deities in a four-tier hierarchy headed by El and Asherah, and were worshipped by the followers of the Canaanite religion. Well, if you look at the word Levi in Hebrew, down here at the bottom left side, I've got it boxed off in red, you'll notice that the root word for Leviathan is Levi. That's because Levi is actually a follower of Leviathan. And this is all the names of deities they had for that. They had El, they had the Asherah, Astarte, Baal, whole bunch of them. Mot is actually a deity of death. Even Yahweh is listed under there. But there are several names, not just one name. Okay. In Matthew 15:22, he says, "Behold, a Canaanite woman from the region came out and was crying, 'Have mercy on me, O Master, son of David.'" And I use master because that's actually what Kyrios means, is used in that word. "My daughter is severely oppressed by a demon." But he did not answer her a word, and his disciples came and begged him, "Send her away, for she is crying out after us." He answered, "I was only sent for the lost sheep of the house of Israel." But she came and knelt before him. "Master, help me." And he answered, "It is not right to take the children's bread and throw it to the dogs." Well, everybody thinks that he was being mean or something, when he used the word dogs, he was referring to this specific area of a person from this area. I don't think he was referring to them as a in a derogatory light. Because look at Luke 16:20 through 22. And at his gate was laid a poor man named Lazarus, covered with sores, who desired to be fed, what fed from the rich man's table. Moreover, even the dogs came and licked his sores. The poor man died and was carried away by the angels to Abram's side. The rich man also died and was buried. So he's telling you something about it. The difference between two types of people there. But he's also telling you who he was taken to. He was taken to Abram's side. And the dogs were licking his sores. And that's kind of metaphorically speaking that they were being mean to him and stuff. And they're actually also named a Canaan dog from that same region. I just thought that was ironic. And that's what he looks like. They've survived in the desert region for thousands of years. So that was another thing why he was using that name, because they've been named that for thousands of years. Okay, here's another one that struck me. Most of y'all probably don't know. I've been studying Hebrew for probably a year now, going through the Old Testament and breaking down every verse. Just break them down, look at them, tear them apart. And what I've noticed is a lot of things are mistranslated. Like this one in Numbers 17:4, where this is after Korah's rebellion, and it's talking about the priest took, and what it actually says, okay, what we have in our English text is Eleazar the priest took the basin censers, wherein that they were burnt and offered, and they made broad plates for a covering of the altar. Okay, when you see that word plates for, see how it's lighter? This is a direct copy from the King James Version on my eSword. Okay, when you look at that, because it's light and it's kind of italicized, it's leaning, that means those words actually are not there, but they just inserted them trying to make it sound right. Okay, now I took it down here and broke it down. And what it actually says is, and he took, or Eleazar took the priest. So you would actually read that the priest Eleazar, you from the destruction of the ruin, the snake is what's actually there in Hebrew, that they sacrificed the serpents, and he beat and stamped them out and stretched them out, covering the altar. So what is actually said in that verse is they took snake skins and covered the altar. But that's not what we have in English, and you would never get that from that. So there's a lot of things in the Old Testament that really will try your mind. I mean, if I walked in and saw an altar covered in snake skins, I'd probably freak out. You know, I'd be like, oh, I'm out of here. This is some kind of satanic worship. Okay, we're going to keep looking. Stay with me to the end of this, because if you don't, then you're going to just be mad at me and turn it off. But I want you to hear everything. Okay, this is the actual Hebrew word, and I pulled it down here, put it in a Hebrew to English translator so y'all can see that it is snake and serpent. I'm not trying to pull the wool over nobody's eyes. You can do this yourself. You can go on, do it Hebrew. You'll get, I think it's like $1 a month I pay for that. But you can take a word, throw it into the translator, and you'll get 4 different definitions from 4 different sources. And you'll also get the modern source, which I'll show y'all later on in another video, how that can be really eye-opening. But Sorry about that. My phone rang. And then this little standard thing here, banner, is from that region, and it has snakes on it. And there are a lot of altars and stuff from that time period when this would have been, that has snakes. Like that's around 1300 BC when Moses was born. And this altar thing would have been around 1393 BCE. So this is the same time period as Moses that we're seeing these serpent banners and standards and stuff in archaeology. Okay, this is interesting too. Can the world be Satan's and Yahuwah's at the same time? And also, why would Yahuwah want to wipe out all the nations and only save one? Okay, I'm going to start on the right over here because this is the main point of this whole slide. Luke 4:5-6. And the devil, taking him up on a high mountain, showed him all the reigns of the world in a moment of time. And the devil said to him, all this authority I shall give to you in their esteem, for it has been delivered to me, and I give it to whomever I wish. If then you worship before me, all shall be yours. Okay, so here we have the devil taking Son of Man up on this high mountain and offering them everything. Okay, when we read Psalms, the earth is Yahuwah's and the fullness thereof, the world and those who dwell therein. So he's definitely saying that this world belongs to Yahuwah. Okay, now let's look at how he's going to destroy all the nations. For I am with you, declares Yahuwah, to save you, though I make a complete end of all the nations where I have scattered you. Yet I do not make a complete judgment end of you. But I shall reprove you in judgment, and by no means leave you unpunished. Okay, in Jeremiah 46:28, do not fear, O Jacob, and Jacob actually means supplanter or heel holder, my servant, so that's his servant, declares Yahuwah, for I am with you, though I make a complete end of all the nations to which I have driven you, yet I do not make a complete end of you. But I shall reprove you in right ruling, and by no means leave you unpunished. Okay, so he's going to wipe out everybody else except for Jacob, but he's going to leave, but he's not going to let them go unpunished. He's still going to punish them. Okay, Isaiah 34:2. For the displeasure of Yahuwah is against all the nations, and his wrath is against all their divisions. He shall put them under the band. He shall give them over to the slaughter. So he's going to slaughter everybody on the earth except for that one nation. Amos 9:8. Look, the eyes of the Master Yahuwah are on the sinful reign, and I shall destroy it from the face of the earth, except that I do not completely destroy the house of Jacob, declares Yahuwah. So again, here we are. He's going to destroy everybody except for Jacob. Just hold that in your mind as we go through the rest of this. All right, let's look at, this is the same thing, but here's some more verses I wanted to go over. Nahum 1:5. The mountains quake before him, the hills melt, the earth heaves before him, the world and all who dwell in it. So here we are. Yahuwah is like being over the whole world and everybody that dwells in it. Matthew 13:38. The field is the world, and the good seed is the sons of the kingdom, and the weeds are the sons of the evil one. So he's telling us something there in Matthew 13. That whole chapter, Matthew 13, is very intense. Matthew 16:26. For what will it profit a man if he gains the whole world and forfeits his soul? And what shall a man give in return for his soul? All right. Psalm 17:14. From men by your hand, O Yahuwah, from men of the world, whose portion is in this life, you fill their womb with treasure. They are satisfied with children, and they leave their abundance to their infants. So he's saying that Yahuwah, or in this, their portion is in this life, not the life to come, you know. And I read you the Luke one already. Now, in John 12:31, now is the judgment of this world, and now will the ruler of this world be cast out. So there's a specific ruler he was talking about in John 12 that's going to be cast out. Okay, here's another Jewish snake altar, and on the right you see the Kabbalah tree of life. Now, a lot of people say, well, all rabbis are not Kabbalah people. You know, they're not into Kabbalah, but many, many, many of them are. Like, I was listening to Tanakh Talk not long ago, and Rabbi Singer called the callers shells. And I'm like, if people understood what that meant in Kabbalah terms, that is a very derogatory thing. When you call somebody a shell, that means they don't have a soul, that they just go back to the dirt, they're lower than the animals. It is a really rude thing to call somebody. And somebody, I had mentioned that on one of my groups, and they said, well, maybe he was calling them a shill. You know, a lot of people call people shills nowadays. And I said, that's still not a good thing to do to somebody calling in. And these people were groveling at his feet, asking him questions. And he was calling them either a shell or a shill. I think it was a shell. In the book of Numbers, Moses mounted the serpent, the bronze serpent, on a pole as a cure against the bite of the seraphim or the burning ones. And the phrase in Numbers 21:9, a serpent of bronze, is a wordplay on Nakash and the bronze, which are closely related in the Hebrew text. But almost everything has to do with serpents. Okay, Moses' rod turns into a snake. I just showed y'all where they're doing snake skins on the altar, the serpent on the pole. There's just a lot of stuff about snakes. And then when you see the Kabbalah tree, this is a real Hebrew, ancient one. And you can see the serpent twined all the way to the top. His head's at the top. Okay. Everything dealing with Moses from Yahuwah has to do with serpents, and that's true. Then in Exodus 4:1, then Moses answered, but behold, they will not believe me or listen to my voice, for they will say, Yahuwah did not appear to you. And Yahuwah said to him, what is in your hand? And he said, a staff. And he said, throw it on the ground. So he threw it on the ground, and it became a serpent. And Moses was scared and ran from it, because our natural instinct is to run from serpents. Numbers 21:8. And Yahuwah said to Moses, make a fiery serpent and set it on a pole. And every one who is bitten, when he sees it, he shall live. So Moses made a bronze serpent, and he set it on a pole. And if the serpent bit anyone, he would look at it in the bronze serpent and would live. Okay, this is another verse that caught my attention. Luke 16:29. This was one of the verses that made me feel like that we were supposed to be following the Old Testament law. But when I started analyzing the Greek, I don't think that's what it was saying at all. It says, in English we have, Abraham said unto him, they have Moses and the prophets, let them hear them. Okay, that's like, okay, let them listen to Moses and the prophets, okay? But when you actually look at the Greek, it actually says, Abraham said unto him, they had Moses and the prophets. They listened to them. So that's a totally different meaning. Acousme is the verb to listen, and in the tense that it's in, it's past tense, definitely. When I first put it in a translator, I was like, I wonder if that's accurate or not. So I went and pulled up all the tenses of that verb, and yep, it's accurate. They listened to them. It is definitely past tense, and then I verified that with Matthew 11:2 and Matthew 2:3. So I'm showing you these things because I want you to know what links I went to make sure that I was not wrong on this. Now you can write this down, and I tell you to do that and go look it up because this is important. I mean, all these little details make a big difference in what's being said. Because this was a big verse that pushed me to be following all those laws in the Old Testament. Okay, this is the only word that we have in both the Old Testament and the New Testament that match when you put them in a translator. What I'm saying there, okay, if you take Yahuwah from the Old Testament and put it into Greek, it does not come out as Kyrios, as what they have, okay? And this word, theos, okay, if you take it and put it in a translator, it does come out to Eloi, which actually means the divine or immortal. It's not really, it's a descriptive term, not really a name, if that makes any sense. But we have it translated in the New Testament as God and in the Old Testament as God. But it doesn't, it's a generic term for divine or immortal. I looked at all the words on the as like translating from the ancient Hebrew to the Greek, back and forth, to see if they matched up and everything. That's how I came up with a lot of this, okay? The Li is synonymous with the theos, like I just showed you. But Yahuwah is not synonymous with any of the terms in the New Testament. And I've showed you here in the Greek, in the middle left. Let me see if I can use a highlighter on that. Okay, see this right here? That is the two words side by side. And you can see how this Greek word does not match when you translate it. Okay. And they tell you theos is a deity, a supreme divinity or magistrate by Hebraism, exceedingly God or godly. Okay. And kurios, which is the other word used in the New Testament, means Lord or Master, and the term kurios is used in the modern Greek language as equivalent to the English term Mr. or Master or Sir, Mr. Smith, would be an example. So neither one of those terms are actually theos nor kurios. Neither one are the name of a deity. The Gospel of John seldom uses kurios to refer to Jesus during the ministry, but does so after the resurrection. They made a big point of that the Gospel of Mark never applied the term kurios in a direct reference to the Jesus, unlike Paul, who uses it 163 times. When Mark uses kurios, it's in reference to, they say, Yahuwah or God. But that can't be, because it simply means master. I think a lot of things have been misconstrued with all this. I just went through, and this was a place I pulled all the places they use kurios, so we could look at how it's used in the New Testament. Y'all can read that if you want to, but it's just pulled out of a textbook. Okay, the L word cannot be father, as they have so many different meanings. I went through all that. Okay, you got Elohim, which means rulers, judges, divine ones, angels, gods, goddess, godlike ones, works with special processions of God, can be the true God, God. I mean, you've got like, then you go to Eloi, God or a false God. Can God also be a false God at the same time? I don't think so. Then it goes, and I pulled them here, okay, like, see the plural of, and then I went to the next number, okay? Then you go from Li down to the next one. It says it's from 410, L. Okay, look at all this stuff. Godlike one, mighty men, men of rank, mighty heroes, angels, God, false God, the one true God, mighty things in nature, strength, or power. Okay, and it says the shortened version of it is H352. Okay, you go over here, and it's a ram. A ram as in sacrifice. A ram skinned and dried for a tabernacle. A pillar, a doorpost, jams. This cannot be Father's name. I don't see it. It just doesn't work. I mean, they've got too many meanings, and I'm using Brown, Driver, Briggs definitions because he's probably the most accurate of any of them. I like it better than even Strong's because he breaks it down like this. Okay, and this reference is from Ernest Klein. This is the rabbinical Hebrew. This is where they get that from. According to it, Elohim is gods, God, super beings, supernatural beings, or judges. Okay, and then they have the little apostrophe looking thing, which they say is an abbreviation for Yahuwah, or the tetragrammaton. Okay, then you get down here to the proper name of God, and they say that the pronunciation and literal meaning of the tetragrammaton is unknown. So they're literally in their own rabbinical dictionary saying they don't even know what the word means, which is not true. They do know. I pulled this verse to show you what I'm talking about theos being immortal or divine, okay? Luke 20:37 through 39. I never did really understand this unless they were calling all three, Abram, Isaac, and Jacob, deities before, until I actually realized what this word actually means. Okay, he said, but that the dead are raised, even Moses showed in the passage about the bush where he calls, and the word thee is not there in the Greek interlineary, and that would be actually master, not Yahuwah. The immortal Abram, and the immortal Isaac, and the immortal Jacob, because of is not there. Now he is not immortal of the dead, but of the living, for all live to him. Then some of the scribes answered, Teacher, you have spoken well. He was talking about, it's about whether they're still alive or not, whether they are just dead corpses or whether they're alive. It's not talking about whether they're him being the God of so-and-so, because of is not there. And that threw me off for a long time. But that passage cleared up a whole lot for me, because the Kyrios being master, and then the Theos being the divine or immortal, is a total different take on this, because it means like, I think it was meant to mean immortal, basically, because they can't all be gods, and there's no of there, and if you read it any other way, you've got 1, 2, 3, 4 gods in that sentence, and that can't be. I mean, in my mind, it just can't be. And they use Damus, which shoes it in the Latin, because it means divine, a divine person or immortal person, same thing. And it's like Kyrios, it can be a lord of a manor also, or clergy even, or a master or title. So it's not a name. Kyrios is not a name. I hope this is making sense. Okay, I looked at Elohim. There's another way we could even look at Elohim. The exact spelling is like when you have two of something. So it could be two Allah instead of one. And I thought that's really strange, because it is plural. It says, let us make man and Adam in our image. So it's definitely, I looked that up, and those are definitely plural. There I'm showing you the prefixes and suffixes showing that it's plural. So it could be two, but I really think that Elohim means El of the seas. And the seas is actually plural, but it's only one person. And that's my take on it. Everybody has an opinion on it. Okay. All right. When I took Allah in Arabic and throw it in, I come out with the Elohim in a translator. And it's often has the in front of it. So Elohim is definitely a name, if that makes any sense. Like I said, I think it means, if you break it down, the Aleph, Lamed, El of the seas. If you were to break it down into syllabuses. I mean, like different things. And some say it means the living God. Okay, here's an interesting thing. If you take Yahuwah in Hebrew and flip it upside down and squash it together, it's actually Allah in Arabic. In Rabbinic Judaism, they consider 7 names of God as being holy: El, Elohim, Yahuwah, Adonai, Eliasher, Elah, Shaddai, and Sabaoth. They consider all those to be sacred names. And when we think about what the Son of Man said, he said, you have one Father. Call no man Father, because you have one Father in heaven. You don't have 7 different ones. So there's something bad wrong right there. Okay, here we get into some really stuff that really blew my mind. El is a Phoenician or Eutharic deity in the Canaanite world, in a Proto-Semitic, and it was a god of the Amorites in the ancient Canaanite religions of the Eastern Semitic, the Mesopotamian early dynastic period. So El was a pagan deity with statues and all that stuff. That doesn't make any sense. So why are the Jews worshiping a pagan deity from the Canaanites, the ancient Canaanites? And you can see all the different names: Elyon, El Shaddai, Eliam, Adon Lim, Turael, Abu Banai, El Eli, Abu Adamain. I mean, it's just like all these different names, they come for the same deity. It was both a generic word for any god and a special name or title of a particular god. So that could be used in that reference, much like we say there are not many gods, El is listed as the head of many pantheons in some of the Canaanite and Eurothetic sources. El played a role as the father of gods of creation. However, because the word sometimes refers to a god other than the great god El, it is frequently ambiguous as to whether El followed by another name or the great god El. I mean, it's just mess. The Semitic root, Allah, let's see, in Hebrew text, the word is interpreted as being Semitically singular for God in many biblical commentaries. But they don't really know, and it's used to differentiate between Yahwehist, Elohist, and Deuteronomist as a priestly source. Like, what kind of priest are you? Well, I'm a El priest, or I'm a Yah priest, or, I mean, that doesn't make any sense to me. Okay, let's look at Elyon. Elyon can mean a deity, or the Most High, or it can be referring to the position of something, or a location of something, not just a name, which could completely change many of the sentences we have. Okay, like look at Deuteronomy 32:8. When the Most High divided the nations their inheritance, when he separated the sons of Adam, he set the bounds of the people according to the numbers of the children of Israel. Okay, I broke that down, each Hebrew word, and it actually says, in the dividing of the inheritance, the uppermost people, or goyim, separated my son Adam to be set over the border or boundary of the nations, to number or score with a mark my son, who will rule as a mighty one, or God, questionably God. That's what it actually says in the Hebrew. And that's looking at every pronoun, every prefix, every suffix. they've just really done a number on this. It's like, because you can see as an adjective, it means the upper or higher region. And I think in that terms, it's talking about the upper people or the upper goyim. And I wanted to look at Matthew 10, okay? Verse 24 through 28. A taught one is not above his teacher, nor a servant above his master. It is enough for the taught one to become like the teacher, or the servant like the master. If they have called the master of the house Beelzebub, how much more those of his household? Therefore do not fear, for whatever is covered shall be revealed, and whatever is hidden shall be made known. What I say to you in the dark, speak in the light, and what you hear in the ear, proclaim from the housetop. And do not fear those who can kill the body, but are unable to kill the being, but rather fear him who is able to destroy both being and body in Gehenna. Okay? Then I compared that to Isaiah 10. And it shall be, when Yahuwah has performed all his work on the Mount Zion and on Jerusalem, that I shall punish the fruit of the greatness of the heart of the sovereign of Ashur, and the boasting of his haughty looks. For he has said, by the power of my hand I have done it, and by my wisdom, for I have been clever. I removed the boundaries of the people, and have robbed their treasuries, and I have put the inhabitants like a strong one. And my hand finds the riches of the people like a nest, and I have gathered all the earth like forsaken eggs are gathered, and there is none who moved his wing or opened his mouth a peep. Would the axe boast itself over him who chops with it, and the saw exalt over him who saws with it, the rod waving those who lift it up, as a staff lifting up that which is not wood? Therefore, Master Yahuwah of hosts sends leanness among the fat ones, and under his esteem he kindles a burning like the burning of a fire. And the light of Israel shall be for a fire, and his set apart ones for a flame. And it shall burn and devour his weeds and his thorn bushes in one day, and consume the esteem of the forest and his fertile field, both life and flesh. And they shall be as when a sick man wastes away, and the remains of the trees shall be so few in number that a child records them. So when we compare the New Testament to the Old Testament, it is Yahuwah that he's telling us to be afraid of, because he can destroy both soul and body, So that's kind of upsetting to think about. And next we look at 2 Kings 1 through 10. And after the death of Ahab, Moab rebelled against Israel. Now Ahaz fell through the lattice in the upper chamber in Samaria and lay sick, and he sent his messengers telling them, Go and inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron, whether I shall recover from this sickness. But the angel of Yahuwah said to Elijah the Tishbite, Arise and go up and meet the messengers of the king of Samaria, and say to them, Is it because there is no God in Israel that you are going to inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron? Now therefore, says Yahuwah, you shall not come down from the bed to which you have gone up, and you shall surely die. So Elijah went. The messengers returned to the king, and he said to them, Why have you returned? And they said to him, There came a man to meet us, and said to us, Go back to the king who sent you, and say to him, Thus says Yahuwah, It is because there is no God in Israel that you are sending to inquire of Beelzebub, the god of Ekron. Therefore you shall not come down from the bed to which you have gone up, you shall surely die. He said to them, What kind of man was he who came to meet you and told you these things? And they answered him, He wore a garment of hair and a belt of leather about his waist. And he said, It is Elijah the Tishbite. And the king sent him to the captain of the 50 and his 50. And he went to Elijah, who was sitting on the top of the hill, and said to him, O man of God, the king says, Come down. But Elijah answered the captain of the 50, If I am a man of God, let fire come down from heaven and consume you and your 50. And then fire came down from heaven and consumed him and his 50. So, being considered a man of God was when fire came down and burned up 50 people. Alright, now let's look at Luke 9:53 through 56. And they received him not, because his face was of one going to Jerusalem. And when his disciples, James and John, had seen this, they said, Master, wilt thou that we command fire to come down from the heaven and consume them? And turning, he rebuked them and said, You know not what spirit you are. The Son of Man came not to destroy souls, but to save. And they went to another town. So here we see the reverse opposite of what we see in the Old Testament. That fire coming down from heaven in the Old Testament is Yahuwah, and then fire coming down in the New Testament is a bad spirit. So that's kind of scary. And they actually left him. A lot of people don't realize this. They broke chapter 9 and 10 into two parts, and it's like James and John left him, and then immediately in 10, when you start reading at the top, and most people read like a chapter at a time, they don't catch it. But then he went and chose new disciples after that, probably because their spirit was bad. Okay, our Strongs and the Brown Driver Briggs tells us that Yahuwah means the existing one. Now, look at how Yahuwah is spelled here. Let's click this on. See that word right there? That is Yahuwah. It's a Yod, Hey, Vah, Hey. Okay, now what is the existing one up here? Got nothing to do with it. I mean, not even the same word. So this teaching that it means the existing one is not true. It doesn't. There is a word for the existing one. There is a word for existing. And it's not this word at all. The Mezorites from about the 6th to the 10th century worked to reproduce the original text of Hebrew. I replaced the vowels of the name of Yahuwah with the vowel signs of the Hebrew words for Adonai or Elohim. Latin-speaking Christian scholars substituted the Y, which did not exist in Latin, with an I or a J, of which exists in Latin as a variant of I. Thus the Tetragrammaton became the artificial Latinized Yahweh. And then that name was used and spread through medieval Europe. And the initial letter J was pronounced according to the local vernacular language, which was rather like Latin. So we get all these different variants where man has distorted and changed things. And look at the vowel points, how different they are on the same word. And when you look at the ancient manuscripts, I'm going to show you that too. There is no vowel point changes. This is where it gets scary. Okay, when you take the word Yahuwah, or Yahovah, or however you want to say it, or Yahweh, and you actually look at what is there, you have Havah and you have a Yod. Okay, when you're learning Hebrew, the Yod on the beginning of the root word gives you the action of a verb. So when you put it would be he will or they will when you put a Yod at the beginning. And since there's no prefix, it will be he will. All right, and then Havah means cause to fall, ruin, mischief, perverse thing, naughty, wickedness, destruction, those kind of things. It does not mean existing one. That is a totally different word. Okay, here's some examples of where Havah is used. It's used in Isaiah 47:11, how to charm away, and disaster. It's used as disaster and mischief. Most of the time it's used again in Ezekiel 7:26 and twice in 7:26. And it's either translated as disaster or mischief. And they say it means ruin or disaster in the Strong's Concordance. Okay, I went outside of that. I went to Abram Publishing and looked at their meaning, okay? They say that I am up here is not the same. That's Hayah. And the Havah has a Vav in it instead of a Yod in the middle between the two Hays right there. See the difference? This is a little short and this one's long all the way to the bottom. That is not the same word. Okay, the verb Hayah to them when they're looking at a lot more sources than I have. The older version of the verb to act defyingly or to appear to fall. Okay, as a noun, it literally means a bad kind of desire or lust or ruin or destruction. Okay, so it describes destruction, ruin, or calamity. All right, now when we look at what the name is in Hebrew, it's your reputation. So that is scary, that's what that word means. Now, what did the Son of Man really say to us? Enter by the narrow gate, for the gate is wide and the way easy that leads to destruction. You could literally put in Yahuwah as a noun, and that is that it would work. And those who enter by it are many. So that's a very scary thought that this word as a noun matches what he said up here. Okay, so I looked at, it's not a verb, and it's not from Hayah, it's a totally different word, Yehovah, Havah, and it just does not match. There's no way around it. It can also mean fall out, actually, but that doesn't really, they're not even spelled the same. And they put the self-existing or eternal, and then they say it's the Jewish national name of God. So it's a name they picked out, I think. It's on the Misha still, which is like back in 885 BCE. And this is actually even mentioned in 2 Kings 3, the war against Misha. So this was an actual thing, and you can see the word right here. Got 2 pointers to it because they had a pointer on there, but I was pulling from where it came from because I blew it up, and that's where it actually came from. And there's the word Yahuwah right there. So there is documentation of that word as far back as this date. Here's more about the Misha Stele ancient tablet. It was discovered in 1868 CE in the modern day Jordan and was published in 1870. It's the first extra biblical inscription found to mention Yahuwah, which was made on the discovery of the stele reported the same event from the biblical narrative. It actually has that narrative on it too, on this stone. The major difference in the Moabite and the Christian claiming Israel was the winner. See, that they say that the way the Yahuwah line was interpreted further supported the concept of Yahuwah as the deity of the Israelites, along since Misha claims to have taken the Israelites' God's vessels as tribute to his own. So the actual battle is different on this writing than it is what we have in the text. Now, this is something most people don't know, that the reference of Yahweh at Shorban is 500 years earlier than this Moabite stone. And it also refers to Yahweh in Egypt. And it is the earliest non-biblical occurrence of the name of Yahuwah. Even if Yahuwah is in the Egyptian text in a place that seems clear that such an area, city, or town was named after a Hebrew god. So a lot of people are claiming, because it's in this text, that this was named after him, but I don't think so. Yah, or Yah, was a lunar deity in ancient Egypt religion, and it simply means moon. And you can see all the variants. This is how it's transcribed, all the different ways it's transcribed, and this is what it looked like in the hieroglyphics. So this was probably, I would say, either copied from the Egyptians or from the ancient Romans, one of the two, and I'll show you why I say that on the Roman part. People have said a lot of things, but when I look at this, what this says to me is the hand of the man that nailed the man, when I look at it. And everybody says it means, behold the nail, behold the hand. And that's actually, you would read it from right to left. So to me it means the hand of the man that nailed the man. And that's just me looking at it as, as an artist. Okay. Now, if Yahuwah's only going to save Judah, which it looks like in all the prophets, then that means he's going to wipe out all but 0.2% of the world's population. Completely get rid of them, even though all three of these are considered the Abraham religions, but yet only 0.2 is Judah, 0.2%. That's just something to think about. Okay, there is a thing where in John 16:2, and it says, "They will put you out of the synagogues. Indeed, the hour is coming when whoever kills you will think he is offering service to God." I think this is very true. This book is the Messianic Idea of Judaism by Gershom Shalom. And what it says is the Gentiles who are designated as Esau or Edom, however, will suffer the opposite fate. They receive their light in this world in a single stroke, and it will depart from them gradually until Israel shall grow strong and destroy them. And when the spirit of uncleanness shall pass from the world, the divine light shall shine upon Israel without let or hindrance. All things will return to their proper order and the state of perfection which prevailed in the Garden of Eden before Adam sinned. And this is from the Zohar. This was hard for me because the people that are actually supposed to be his chosen people are actually I listened to Adam Green's videos on Odyssey, and they're actually planning on taking out all the Gentiles, or the Goim, and they think that they're either Esau or Amalek. And this was not like just a few rabbis. This was like tons of them, and they're mainstream people that are on YouTube all over the place. I literally reported some of them to YouTube because of the vile things they were plotting genocide. and it's not just one of them. I listened to one video of his, and there was like about 18 of them talking this way. And I think this is what he was talking about, that they're going to think they're doing what God wants, but they're going to be killing us. And they're bringing in what they call their Noahide stuff, and they're like 7 laws. One of them is if you believe that Jesus or the Son of Man came, that you're an idol worshiper, and the penalty for that is decapitation. And I don't think people realize that. I mean, this may get me thrown off of YouTube. I don't think it will, because it's written on their websites, and they're talking about it openly, so I don't see why we can't talk about it openly, That's just my opinion. But it may get me thrown off of here, I don't know. But I thought this was very interesting reading this. It's very scary. And I may do another video on Odyssey on this topic, because this stuff coming from the Zohar, I can pretty much prove the Zohar was written by, it says Shimon, but I think it was Simon Peter. I think he wrote both. And why do I say that? Because when he denied Son of Man, it's like he was in the temple itself, in the courtyard. You do not, back in that day and age, you did not go into the courtyard unless you were a high priest. And the Cleopas that prophesied that it was better for one man to die for a nation than the whole nation be wiped out, that is the same name. It's just in Arabic as Kepha. So it's like he was using the same name. They were using the same names in the New Testament, but just different languages. And that's involved too. But I've got a whole nother video stacked up to do that on what is the real language. This all gets very complex, but when you look at the Zohar altar on the front of the book, and then go look at St. Peter's Basilica, Peter's altar is exactly the same as the one on the Zohar book also. I'm going to do a whole video on exactly who is Simon Peter, because I think there's a lot that's been missing on that. I think he's been played out to be some dumb fisherman when he really was a high priest. And the high priest back in that day and age also held jobs. They weren't just specifically priests. I looked that up too, because I was like, well, if he was a fisherman, could he have even been a high priest? And yeah, all of them had jobs, just like Paul was a tent maker, and he was a Pharisee priest. They all did. But I just thought this was interesting. I want you to think about these things I'm saying. What do they mean? Why did he say them? And I think there's a big reason he said this one. Okay, here's some more things. The Hebrew name Yah is known as the name of God since the Moses is Exodus in Egypt, and by that way the Egyptian moon god. I've already showed that. Here's one of their where they're quoting that it's O Yah, the shining one. The word Hillel, which means shining one. The Hebrew word for moon itself is they use Urak, but that's really another deity, saying it means crescent moon. I got this off of another person's website. And Yareko in Hebrew means the moon city. And so they prayed to the moon god. And all through this thing you'll see, this is from the Egyptologist Wallace Berg, but this is tied, the name Yah is tied to a moon deity, which I found real interesting, and a shining one known as Hillel. This is the Grand Pinnacle of Solomon. It's in a different language, but you can see at the top, there's your Yahweh, and Emmanuel, and the Tetragrammaton. I mean, all the names are there. It's all over all this satanic stuff, and this is like 6 points, 6 sides, and 6 sections, 666. And here it is again, all these names that they're using in the Old Testament. El, and then all the angels' names. I mean, this is scary to see. Eli, Shaddai, Adonai. I mean, they're all on there. And the more you look, the more names you see. Here's the El Shaddai. It's on this satanic thing, and this is their emblem for El Shaddai. And I'm going to show you here in a second what El Shaddai means. And here's the pentagram of the Tetragrammaton. And it's just like an occult thing, and each point has to do with the planets. Here's up close. Now this is interesting because Yahuwah, Jehovah is also known as Jupiter and is their head deity to them. And it also has the devil snake coil God symbol. And this goes right along with the Kabbalah stuff too. Okay, this is more on the Egyptian thing. Yah was sometimes considered an adult from the Cronus, and increased and absorbed in him. He continued to appear in amulets and occasionally other representatives like cross in appearance and the same lunar symbols on his head like the moon stuff. This is a statue of Yah from 664 to 332 BC. In his role, he's assumed the lunar aspect of Thro, and was assimilated with Osiris, the god of the dead, in the monthly cycle of the moon, which came around. And there was even another queen that was named Yah also. And when I looked, there's really no moon days in Scripture, because Urak is another deity. Shamash and Urak were the deities of the sun and the moon. There's a lot of paganism in the Old Testament. Baal, basically Baal, it was a deity in Hebrew and Semitic title, more like a master or a possessor of something. It can refer to any god and even to human officials. Is used in Hadad as a god of thunderstorms, fertility, agriculture, the Lord of the heavens. Priests were allowed to utter his divine name, Hadad, Baal, which was commonly used. And you'll see there's cities in the scriptures that even use Baal. And it says, like in Jeremiah 23:27, which think to cause my people to forget my name, as their father had forgotten my name for Baal. But this is another. The Baal, the same name for Yahuwah, is recorded in the Jewish encyclopedia as being the same, which is bizarre. Okay, I went all the way down to the root word for Yahuwah. Okay, you've got the main word meaning ruin or disaster, and then they say it's from this number H1941, which means desire in a bad sense, chasm, figuratively of destruction, engulfing ruin, calamity. Then they say that one is from H1933, and they're all the same, they just got different vowel points. This one means to fall, to be, become, exist. I don't believe that, because there's too much other that's not related to that. And then this one comes from this one, and it's another form, which meaning ruin or mischief. So you've got all these different forms, but they all have to do with negativity. This is what they depict Yah as in the Maccabean period. That is this word down here is Yah in Greek. At the bottom, he's got the rooster head and the serpent's tail and a whip and a shield. But that is what they perceived Yah as being in this Maccabean time period. And then when you go down and you look this word up, it tells you, well, I'm sorry, I think I said Greek, it's Koine Greek. They say it's Yahweh or the Tetragrammaton. And it's also based on Dionysus and Sabaoth, the pagan god of wine, Sabaosi. And in Latin, it's Yahoo, And Yahoo, according to the Latin writings, is actually Jupiter also. Here's the Webster's 1988 second edition, Yaha, hypothetical reconstruction of the Tetragrammaton, first component of Yahoo, god of the older Canaanite name, a god or form of Hebrew in the Old Testament. And see, Yahwehism, I was telling you there's a difference between worshiping El and worshiping Yahweh. The worship of Yahweh is considered Yahwehism, or a Yahwehist, instead of an Elohimist. So there was a differentiation between worshiping Elohim and worshiping Yahweh. Justin Martyr in 150 AD said this, but if anyone objects that he was crucified, in this also he is on par with those reputed sons of Jupiter of yours. So Justin Martyr confessed that Jupiter was the supreme deity of the emperor in the Roman Empire. And then in Wilhelm's Geninus, I never can say that right, suggested that the name Yahweh may have come from Jupiter, and that the word Jupiter translated into Latin as Yahweh or Yahweh. And see, the Son of Man told him, you worship what you do not know. We worship what we know, for salvation is away from the Jews, not from the Jews. And this guy that wrote this synopsis here, he was a German language specialist, and he was a master of Hebrew. And he's a widespread author of the Hebraist Grammatica, a Hebrew and English lexicon of the Old Testament. And he lived back in 1786 to 1842. But you can look stuff up on Bible Hub. You can look at this actual lexicon when you're looking up words and see what he thought of these words. Okay, here is this recorded. The Glasnost understood that Christ was Sabaoth, Yahuwah of hosts, or the armies, the son of Yah, or this is that Koine Greek for Yahuwah, or the Tetragrammaton. Irenaeus wrote, they have also given names to several persons of the systems of falsehood, following he who was first descended from of the mother is called Yabato. He again descended from him is named Yah. He is, this one is called Sabaoth. And then again in heresies in chapter 30, they believed that Yah was a supreme over Jupiter as an oracle of Apollos. So we have just all this pagan stuff coming up in with revolving around the Yah name. Okay, here's a Dead Sea fragment with it on there. I just wanted to show you. This is about 2,000 years old. And here you see it in this little circle here. Okay, this is a papyrus found in, that's about 2,100 years in the Hebrew Greek text. And there's the Yahuwah in there. All right, here's the Great Isaiah Scroll. That's what the name looks like. And there's no denying that goes all the way down as opposed to this one. So it is not I am. I mean, this is ancient. Here's another one. This is 2,200 years old. Again, note the difference between the yod here and the va. Goes all the way down to the bottom line. That means this is not a yod right here. That's not a yod, that's a va. Um, I put that one twice. I think I blew this up so you could see it better here. Because this is the one you can read online. I've actually gone and looked at verses. If you scroll up, if you just put in Great Isaiah Scroll, and it'll come up, the website, and you can actually go down at the bottom here and pick out the verse you want to look at. And you can blow it up and see if it actually says what they say it says in the scriptures. It's really cool. Okay, this is when a change occurred. Notice how this is written in block Hebrew here, and this is in Paleo. His name is in Paleo. I believe these scriptures were corrupted after 70 AD to promote this name. This fragment dated to about 100 BC and was originally part of the Psalm scroll. And there is like historical evidence of the practice of using the Paleo Hebrew script to write the divine name of Yahuwah. And also notice there's no vowel points on any of this, because none of these older scriptures had that. That was added. They changed the meaning of words. They've done all kinds of stuff. Okay. Yeah, this was commonly used after the Babylonian exile. Here's just another example of it. And this purely looks forged to me. That looks like it's forged in. Yeah, they transferred into Koine Greek in Alexandria, Egypt, around the 2nd to the 1st centuries BCE. Egypt was dominated by the Ptolemaic dynasty, and there were several Greek translators of the Judean text. And I'm not sure. I think this looks forged to me. I mean, I'm an artist, and that just doesn't look right. Even the ink is not the same. Okay, that's another blowed up picture. I just want you to be real clear on what I'm showing you. You can pause this. I'm going pretty fast, but you can pause it and look at them. This is very interesting. Okay, the word Jupiter, translated from Latin to Greek, is the same word for Yahweh. Jupiter was the chief deity of the Roman state religion until Constantine replaced it with Christianity. The Latin word for Jupiter is Yahov, and it's actually pronounced Yahweh. And we have all these magical things where people are using the Tetragrammaton. This is God's White Magic by Marcus Bottomley. Spells, rituals, and occult books, grimoires, witchcraft, witch, and occult Satanism. This is a seal of Solomon. The Song of Degrees said that trust in Jehovah shall be as Mount up on Zion. And you see his name on here too. And there. And that's considered the third pentacle of Jupiter. But it's got Yahuwah's name on it. Here's another one, the Talisman of the Book of Black Magic and Pacts, and it's got his name on it in the middle. And this is just the same thing I just read to y'all. Okay, here we see this. I'm trying to remember what year this was. It's an ancient spell scroll from 1895 that the Yahweh Sabaoth occurred very frequently in magical text. And here they've drawn a circle around this is Yahweh Sabaoth's right there. This is a tablet to curse somebody with an incantation is what it is. And it goes, Yahweh Sabaoth, arouse yourself with the underworld gods. So this is referring to him with the underworld gods. There's a lot of ancient stuff like that. When you look at just Meriwether's web, I looked at everything. I've tried not to leave anything out. Yah is used as an expression of disgust, contempt, defiance, and derision. And then the secondary definition is Yahweh. I'm sorry for all these noises. It's just a noisy day. This is the four worlds of the Kabbalah. His name stands for the fire wands, the water cups, the swords, and the pentacles, which is all used in witchcraft. Here's another example of their Kabbalistic type stuff, because they also have Zeus and Emmanuel and El. And then they have other names in here too. It's just very scary seeing all this. This is an actual Jewish altar. Now, if you walked in and saw that, would you not think that you were at some kind of Satan worship or pagan worship thing? I know I would. This is the same. The deluxe tetragrammaton pentacle pentagram. Abaxion is a witchcraft outlet for pagans and witches, and they sell this too. For those who follow high magic, and comes a necklace of the pentacle, the ancient word of power, the tetragrammaton, meaning Yahweh, the true name of God. Okay, now if Yahweh was the name of a father, then why does he have an inheritance and why does he hate it? And I analyzed this to make sure it really said what it does, and it does. Therefore there was wrath of Yahuwah kindled against his people, insomuch that he abhorred or hated his own inheritance. So who did he inherit from, is my question. If he is the father of everything, would he need an inheritance? No. This is interesting also because this first word up here, Anaki, can also mean Lord of the earth instead of I am. They have it translated I am, but it can mean either one. I looked it up and it can be either one. Yahuwah, your divine, which you brought forth out of the land of the narrow double straits, and out of, or from the slaves, okay? You brought forth out of, like they brought forth this name, their divine, from there, which I thought was really interesting. That's Exodus 2:22. I'm sorry, I forgot to tell you the verse before I started reading it. Okay, now we're going to look at what the Son of Man said in Luke 11. And he was casting out a devil, and it was dumb. And it came to pass, when the devil was gone out, the dumb spake. And the people wondered. But some of them said, he cast out devils through Beelzebub, the chief of the devils. And others, tempting him, sought of him a sign from heaven. But he, knowing their thoughts, said unto them, every kingdom divided against itself is brought to desolation, and a house divided against a house falls. If Satan also be divided against himself, how shall his kingdom stand? Because ye say that I cast out devils through Beelzebub. And if I by Beelzebub cast out devils, by whom do your sons cast them out? And therefore shall they be your judges. But if I with the finger of God cast out devils, no doubt the kingdom of God is come to you. When a strong man armed keepeth his palace, his goods are in peace. Okay. Well, what is Beelzebub? Okay. Beelzebub is Baal of the fly, or Lord of the flies, possessor of the flies. Because Baal actually means possessor. Okay. So what do we see in Exodus 8:24? And Yahuwah did so. There came some great swarms of flies into the house of Pharaoh, and into the servant's house, throughout all the land of Egypt, and the land was ruined by swarms of flies. So Yahuwah was the possessor of the flies. He was Beelzebub. Okay. Psalm 78:45. He sent divers sorts of flies among them, which devoured them, and frogs which destroyed them. And he gave also their increase of their caterpillar and their labor unto the locust. Now, if you remember from the Revelations, he sends out the locusts too. The bad guy does. And the frogs, the unclean frogs. Everything is telling us something. I looked at Deuteronomy 32:9 and analyzed it, for it says, the Lord's portion, his people Jacob, the lot of his inheritance. And I actually got that as because the portion, Yahuwah's portion is with him, Jacob destroys his inheritance. So that really didn't come out exactly like they have it translated for me. But if it is correctly translated on their part, that would mean that he has another portion, which is like an inheritance. Several times mentioned about his inheritance in the Old Testament. Now this part's going to scare you here. What a tangled web we weave when people deceive. That's me talking there. Eusebius of Caesarea, 206 to 341 AD, was the bishop of Caesarea, and he is considered the father of the church history and was a church scholar and presbyter in the church of Caesarea. His major work was the history of the church, a massive piece of research that's preserved quotations from many other writers that would otherwise have been lost, specifically for researchers of the Phoenician history. Okay, in his Sanctiton, I guess I'm saying that right, I don't know, is preserved in very interesting little statement. But on the occurrence of pestilence and mortality, Kronos offers his only begotten son burnt offering to Father Sky, and circumcises himself, compelling his allies also to do the same. To me, this tells me where they got the story of Abraham and Isaac and were distorting what I consider to be the real father. And let's see, but we are told that El slew his own son, Sadius, a name which they think to be a corruption of El Shaddai, one of the epitaphs of the biblical El, and El also beheaded one of his daughters, later perhaps referring to the same death of Sadius we are told about this thing I just read you. And that sounds very, very, very much like the story of Abram and Isaac in Genesis. I'm going to show you here, El Shaddai cannot be the Almighty, because the same word means a demon, a genie, or a fiend. So it cannot be the Almighty. I mean, how do you have the Almighty named as a demon? Okay, and I read Job, it says, shall he contendeth with the Almighty and instruct? He that reproveth God, let him answer it. Okay, I went through and analyzed the Hebrew, and this says, the rabbi, with my demon, he will torment you and will reprove Eli, he will answer. So he's going to answer to, probably this is reverse as far as, but it's just, there's just so much bad translation. But when I saw that pop up, and that just immediately my radars went off. And the root word, okay, if you look at Shaddai, El Shaddai, which they say is Almighty, most powerful, okay, it's from 7703. And what does that mean? To deal violently with, despoil, devastate, ruin, destroy, spoil, to violently destroy. The devastator, the despoiler, to be utterly ruined. That cannot be the Almighty. Here's some more examples. This is the ancient picture of El Shaddai with the horns. I mean, that's scary. Here's a modern one so you can see it more clearly. This is actually the Solomon seal of El Shaddai. It's used in magic for its holder to gain all his wishes. And I went through and put these back in here again, so if you want to look at them again and pause it, there's just no denying that they took words that were evil and put them in for as deity. Okay, this, I just put this back on here. This is Abraham Publishing's definition here. Now think about this verse when you look at this and then you look at the meaning of El Shaddai. Wail, for the day of Yahuwah is near. It will come as destruction. Shaddai, and that's the same word from Shaddai, the demon, is what that actually means. I mean, they have really done a number on this stuff. And you can go look all this up yourself. It's not some kind of magic trick that I'm doing here. It's just flat out what these words mean. This right here in this square box, that is from the Do It Hebrew. And they always tell you what dictionary they're using. Then they have the translation at the top. If it's a verb, they give you all the tenses. It's well worth the money if you want to study these out, because it really helps you see how distorted this has really come. And I'm beginning to think Hebrew is Satan's language, because they do have a lot of words that they have meanings that are positive and negative for the same word, which if you were speaking any other language, that would not happen. And I don't want to go on too long. I'm already like an hour and 30, and I'm only halfway. But the John tells us, like, in Greek the word is apollyon, and in Hebrew, or the actual Greek word is Hebraistry, it is Abaddon. Well, John is telling us a big deal right there, because he's telling us that this Hebrew language, like for Yahuwah and all, is not the original language at all. The original language was Ibri language, which is a Latin base. So we are studying manuscripts that are actually not from the original language. Here's another example of where distortions have been thrown in, okay? Like Exodus 34:29, and it came to pass Moses came down from the Mount Sinai with the 2 tablets of the testimony in Moses' hand. And when he came down from the mount, that Moses wished not that the skin of his face shone while he talked with them, okay? What is their concept back then of what happened to Moses? Did his face shine, or did he grow horns? Because that word right there, kara, means to grow horns. Doesn't mean to shine. And evidently the churches also knew that, or every statue of Moses would not have horns on it. And the people were afraid of him because of this. And I would be terrified too if somebody went and said, I just talked to God, and then they were growing these big antler horns on their head. I'd be scared too. Okay, I'm going to compare Exodus 10:4 and 2 Chronicles 7:12 and 13 to Revelation 9. Okay, Revelation 9:2-4. He opened the shaft of the bottomless pit, and from the shaft rose smoke like a smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened, and the smoke from the shaft. And from the smoke came locusts on the earth, and they were given power, the power of scorpions on the earth, and they were told not to harm the grass of the earth or any green plant or any tree, but only those people who do not have the seal of God on their forehead. Okay? Now look at Exodus 10:4. For if you refuse to let my people go, behold, tomorrow I will bring locusts into your country. All right, and then 2 Chronicles 7:12, and Yahuwah appeared to Solomon by night and said to him, I have heard thy prayer and have chosen this place to myself for a house of sacrifice. If I shut up heavens and there is no rain, or if I command the locusts to devour the land, or I send pestilence among my people. So the one sending the locust is Yahuwah. So what did the Son of Man reveal? He said he was going to open his mouth and reveal things hidden in the foundation of the world. I think this is one of them. Look at Luke 13:16. And ought not this woman, a daughter of Abram, and Your text will have Abraham, but what's really written in Greek is Abram, and it's Abram with two A's. The reason it's got two A's is that means a long A sound. It doesn't mean that it's a different word. Okay? Whom Satan bound for 18 years, be loosened from this bond on the Sabbath day. Think about that. He was speaking to people that were worshiping Yahuwah. And he's talking about it in a reference like she's bound to Satan. And he wants to loosen her on the Sabbath day. Very interesting statement. Luke 16:24, and he called out, Father Abraham, or Father Abram, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus to dip his finger in the water and cool my tongue, for I am in anguish in this flame. So the guy that is in hell is not calling out to Yahuwah in heaven. Who's he calling out to? He's calling out to Father Abram. Alright, Luke 19:9. And Jesus said, Today salvation has come to this house, since he also is a son of, not Yahuwah, he's a son of Abram. John 4:23. But the hour is coming and is now, when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For such the Father seeks to worship him. Okay? This is a big deal. When you look at the word Abram, it means exalted father. Okay? When you look at Abraham, it means father of the multitude. And then when you look at Abba, it means father. I think that all three branches of Abram's people have been marked with the 666. And the only way to be loosened is through the Messiah. This is the Telfa cube, or the phylacteries that the Jewish people wear when they pray. Inside them is the Shema that says, Hear, O Israel, Yahuwah our Elohim is one. You know, okay. Well, written on each side of them is the Tav, the 666, on every side. And they are said to bind on the head, like Deuteronomy 6:8, for the fontanels between their eyes, and to bind the telpha on their arm is written, Thou shalt bind them as a sign on thy hand. And that's what these represent. And it's got the 666 on every side of it. This is going to scare a lot of people. It scares me. I've never worn one of those, but we're in just as much trouble. We need to be loosened from a bond. Okay, here is the oath, which is the sign that is in the Old Testament. Like in Isaiah 7:14, therefore Yahuwah himself gives you a sign, a tet. Look, the Alma conceives and gives birth to a son, and shall call his name Emmanuel, meaning God is with us. Okay. When you look at that, what this is, and you bring it up, it's a signal, a sign, an omen, a letter of the alphabet. I think it's the tet. This is what it looks like. And this is actually on the back of every crucifix painting and crucifix from the early Christian periods. It means the tet is a basket surrounded by a snake or crossed by a snake. And the oath actually means the leader of the nail and the snake. Leader secured with a cross surrounded by a snake, or leader secured with a tet letter or signal. When you look at the paleo, because you read it from right to left. I always get that backwards. Here it is on the, you can see it on here. Let me put a highlighter. You can see it up here. See, it's behind his head. I kept looking for what the mark was, you know, and I wasn't really sure because some of the writings look like the Arabic. Well, now it all makes sense, okay? Here it is here, and look what it morphed into, a 6. So it's the Greek equivalent 6, and that's the late Hebrew. Okay. The name Abram, summary, meaning exalted father, their shield and protection. It comes from Ab and Ram, to be elevated. Okay. He told them, the people he was talking to, you are of your father the devil. And they answered him, Abram is your father, is our father. And Jesus said to them, if you were Abraham's children, you would be doing the works Abraham did. And Jesus said to him, today salvation has come to this house, since he too is a son of Abraham. And then he said in John 8:56, Abraham your father, he was telling them right there, I revealed it, Abraham your father rejoiced to see my day. He saw it and was glad. That was his daddy. Okay, the Son of Man gives us back to the Father, where we belong. I think Yahuwah is the one breaking things in pieces. Okay, I'm going to explain here now. Luke 9:37-45. On the next day, when they had come down from the mountain, a great crowd met him. And behold, a man from the crowd cried out, Teacher, I beg you, look at my son. He is my only child. A spirit seizes him and suddenly cries, and he convulses. Meaning, the word convulse means to break to pieces. Him so that he foams at the mouth and shatters him, and he will hardly leave him. And I beg your disciples to cast it out, but they could not. And Jesus answered, O faithless and twisted generation, how long am I to be with you and bear with you? Bring your son here. And while he was coming, the demon threw him to the ground, and he convulsed. But Jesus rebuked the unclean spirit and healed the boy, gave him back to his father, and all were astonished at the majesty of God. See, it's like it goes back to this word Father. Let these words sink into your ears. The Son of Man is about to be delivered into the hands of men. But they did not understand what he was saying, and it was concealed from them so that they might not perceive it. And they were afraid to ask about what he was saying. Okay, now let's go over here to Jeremiah and compare this story to this. Not like these, he who is the portion of Jacob, for he is the one who formed all things, and Israel is the tribe of his inheritance. Again, there comes that word inheritance. The Yahuwah of hosts is his name. You are my hammer and weapon of war. With you I break the nations in pieces, and I will destroy kingdoms. And with you I break in pieces the horse and the rider. With you I break in pieces the chariot and the charioteer. With you I break in pieces man and woman. With you I break in pieces the old man and the youth. With you I break in pieces the young man and the young woman. With you I break in pieces the shepherd and his flock. With you I break in pieces the farmer and his team. With you I break in pieces governors and commanders. Is there anything he doesn't break in pieces? I mean, it's said how many times there? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 times. He's going to break things in pieces. And this convulse means to break in pieces. Once I saw this, I'm sorry it took me so long to get back to saying anything, but I had to be sure. I mean, I can't come out here and mess up. And I pray I'm not messing up now. I don't think I am. I think I'm showing something that needs to be seen. And like I said, don't take my word for it. Study it out, decide for yourselves. Here's another example. Yeah, I kind of like using this thing. Luke 3:7. John would say to the crowds that you were coming out to be baptized by him, you children of serpents. Who warned you to flee the coming wrath? Okay, so he's referring to them as children of serpents. All right, Luke 11:11. What father among you, if his son asked for bread, would give him a stone? Or if he asked for a fish, would give him a snake instead of the fish? So it's like he's referring to our Father in heaven, I think. Okay? Then in this one, Numbers 21:6, he says, in response, the Yahuwah sent poisonous serpents among the people to bite them. As a result, many people died. Of Israel died. Okay, I went through and analyzed this, and this is actually future tense. That's why I put this in here so you can read about how I can tell it's a future tense. And he will send Yahuwah into the nation to overshadow the image of the snakes and the fiery seraphim, and they will bite the people, and they will die with many from Israel. So it's actually Yahuwah sending serpents. Now, what father would give somebody a serpent or a snake? To me, this is like having to relearn our what is good and what is bad in a way, because it's like I kept seeing all the deception, and I've done y'all tons of videos on, you know, how Peter and Paul did, and they're in prophecy. But the thing I never really stopped to consider is who sent them. Who did this? It was Yahuwah really doing it, you know. Lamentations 5, there are two voices in Scripture to me. There's one that's speaking, and when you read it in Hebrew, it's real clear, because at the beginning of a lot of the verses, it'll say, and he said, like there's another person outside of the Scriptures telling us a story, if that makes any sense. You don't see it until you start reading it in Hebrew, because it's not there in the English translation. But here's a verse in Lamentation 5:3. And I did the mechanical on this. We are orphans and have no father, and our truth is like widowhood. Okay? And you know, he said to take care of the widows, you know. All right, in John 4:23, but the hour cometh and is now when the true worshipers will worship the Father in spirit and truth. For the Father seeketh such to worship him. Okay? The orphans are the ones without any father. Okay? So we're supposed to take care of the orphans and the widows. Luke 20:45, and in the hearing of all the people, he said to his disciples, beware of the scribes who walk around in long robes and love greetings in the marketplace, and the best seats in the synagogues, and the best of the honor of the feast, who devour the widows' houses, and for a pretense make long prayers. They will receive greater condemnation. So that's what he was talking about. The widows, the ones without father, are sitting in the houses. Okay, this is all the Abram words, okay? Call no man father, because you have one Father in heaven. He made that real clear. Even when he said to pray, pray our Father. Okay, Ab is actually Hebrew for father. Abram is exalted father. That's what it means. Ivory, we're told that Abram was an ivory, and they've got it translated Hebrew. Well, ivory can mean two things. It can mean a person from the Iberian Peninsula, and it also means one from beyond. Okay, then Abraham is father of the multitude, or chief of the multitude. They have, but I think it's father because it's got the ab at the beginning. So every one of these indicates that this is the father. All right. Also, Abraham can mean merciful father, Abram, um, when it's translated, because Raham means merciful. All right, I wanted to look at these too. In the usage of father when he was speaking, Matthew 7:11. If you then, who are evil, know how to give good gifts to your children, how much more will your Father, who is in heaven, give good things to those who ask? Okay, so he's referring to Father as being in heaven. And Matthew 7:21. Not everyone who says to me, Master, Master, shall enter the kingdom of heaven, but he who does the will of my Father who is in heaven. So again, he's placing this name Father in heaven. Matthew 11:25. At that time Jesus declared, I thank thee, Father, Master of heaven and earth, that thou hast hidden these things from the wise and understanding and revealed them to babies. Babies are, and he said, suffer the children, because such is the kingdom of heaven. The babies, the children. Matthew 6:9. Pray then like this, Our Father, who art in heaven, hallowed be thy name. Matthew 6:8. Do not be like them, for your Father knows what you need before you ask him. Matthew 6:14. For if you forgive men their trespasses, your heavenly Father will forgive you. He didn't say Yahuwah is going to forgive you. He said your heavenly Father. Matthew 6:26. Look at the birds of the air. They neither sow nor reap nor gather into the barns, and yet your heavenly Father feeds them. Are you not of more value than they? I think it's real clear what he was trying to say with that. Okay, this is that story of Lazarus and the rich man and Lazarus in Luke 16. I just want us to think about what's really being said here. There was a rich man who was clothed in purple and fine linen, who feasted scrumptiously every day, and at the gate was laid a poor man named Lazarus, and Lazarus means whom God helps, covered with sores, who desired to be fed with what fell from the rich man's table. Moreover, even the dogs came and licked his sores. The poor man died and was carried by the angels to Abraham's side. So where was he taken? To Abram's side. The rich man also died and was buried, and in Hades, being tormented. He lifted up his eyes and saw Abram far off and Lazarus at his side, and he called out, Father Abram, have mercy on me, and send Lazarus to dip the end of his finger in the water and cool my tongue, for I am in anguish in this flame. But Abram said, Child, remember that you in your lifetime received your good things, and Lazarus in like manner bad things. But now he is comforted here, and you are in anguish. And besides this, between us and you a great chasm has been fixed, in order that those who would pass from here to you may not be able, and none may cross from there to us. And he said, Then I beg you, Father, to send him to my father's house. I think he was referring to the temple, whatever. For I have 5 brothers, so that he may warn them, lest they would come into this place of torment. But Abram said, Tell they had Moses and the prophets, they heard them. And he said, No, Father Abram, if someone goes to them from the dead, they will repent. And he said to them, If they do not hear Moses and the prophets, neither will they be convinced if someone should rise from the dead. So the whole scenario about going and being in comfort is to go where Abram is. I think that's very, very telling. Here is the Psalms. I went and analyzed this, and it really upset me because they've got open to me the gates of righteousness. I will enter in. I will praise the Lord, is what they have. And that's not what's written there. What is actually written is, Open to me the gate, righteous Father, and I will enter in the breath, or the reveal, is what is actually written there. So that is very deceptive, because it's Father that opens the gate and lets you in. Here's another verse where I was seeing that Father's voice comes through in the Old Testament. Have we not all one Father? Abba is what it has in actual Hebrew. Has not one El, which is generalized for God, created us? Why then are we faithless to another, profaning the covenant of our Father? And I looked at that. They have fathers for that last word, and it's not what's there. It's actually Father. And the other part of it is our. That's the suffix. It'd be our Father. Because when you look at Father there, this is Father's, and Father's is not there. It's our Father. I looked up a lot of places that have the Father word in them in the Old Testament, just to see what is said there. If Yahuwah is God, how did he meet Moses at an inn seeking to kill him like a man would do? That doesn't make any sense to me. Because I did a mechanical on this, and it says it came to pass on the way in the inn, and he met Yahuwah, and he sought to kill him. So he was meeting him just like a person would. And that doesn't make any sense. If he is spirit, how could he meet him at the inn? This is really telling too. Abaddon means destroy, kill, or blot out Father. It's actually the word Abba and Adon, and that means like perish, vanish, go away, be destroyed, to die, exterminate. to destroy, kill, cause to perish, blot out. So basically it's blot out Father, get rid of Father, is what Abaddon actually means. And interesting enough, the priests in Italy have always used the title Don, or Domus Master. In Spain, they also use Don, like Senior Father Don, whatever, you know. This has always been a thing. The D on the priest's name is an abbreviation for Don. So they call themselves Abba Don in reality. Okay, this is just an explanation that a dominus is actually a clergyman. So it can be a sir, a title, but it's primarily a clergyman, and it comes from the word for divine or being of God. And I thought about this. It's like, where all is Abaddon in the Old Testament? And it's primarily in Job, Psalms, and Proverbs. And the biggest one that stood out to me was, this is actually Sheol. Sheol and Abaddon are before Yahuwah. How much more the hearts of children and men. They are linked to Yahuwah. Sheol is naked before him, and Abaddon hath no covering. This means standing in front of Yahuwah. Job 28:22. Abaddon and death say, we have heard the fame therein in our ears. So he talks with them. Job 31:12. For it's a fire that consumeth too, and would root out all mine increase. It's pretty interesting. And then we think about the light and the darkness, okay? Because there's a lot of stuff about darkness and a lot of stuff about light in the New Testament. In John 3:19, and this is the judgment, the light has come into the world, and the people love the darkness rather than the light. In verse 20, for everyone who does wicked things hates the light and does not come to the light, lest his works should be exposed. But whoever does what is true comes to the light, so that it may be clearly seen that his works have been carried out in God. Okay, John 12:46. I have come into the world as light, so that whoever believes in me may not remain in darkness. So he's saying that they were already in darkness. Then we turn around and we look, well, let's go to Revelation. We'll do all the New Testament first. And the city had no need for sun or moon to shine in it, for the glory of God gives it light, and its lamp is the Lamb. Okay? Now, in Isaiah 45:7, Yahuwah says, I form light and I create darkness. I make well-being and create calamity. I am Yahuwah who does all these things. Then in Amos 5:18 it says, woe to you who are longing for the day of Yahuwah. What does the day of Yahuwah mean to you? Is it darkness and not light? And as when a man flees from a lion, and a bear shall meet him, and enter in his house, and he rests his hand on and a serpent shall bite him? See, I think some of these voices from the Old Testament are Father speaking to us. Is not the day of Yahuwah darkness and not light? Is it not very dark, with no brightness in it? And then we look at 2 Chronicles 6:1. And then Solomon said, the Yahuwah has said that he would dwell in thick darkness, but I have built you an exalted house, a place for you to dwell in forever. Then we look at 1 Chronicles 21:1 and 2 Samuel 24:1, where we have David numbering Israel. Okay, 1 Chronicles 21:1 said that Satan stood up against Israel and incited or enticed David to number Israel. Okay, then when you go to, this is two accounts in the same thing of the same instance. In 2 Samuel 24:1 it says, and again the displeasure of Yahuwah burned against Israel and moved to incite or instigate David against them to say, go number Israel and Judah. So we have, is it Satan or was it Yahuwah that did it? We have both names used interchangeably for the same event, which is scary. Now we look at Matthew 12:22. He said, and he was brought unto him one possessed with a devil, blind and dumb, and he healed him insomuch that the blind and the dumb both spake and saw. Okay? And we look at Matthew 15:30. The great multitudes came unto him, having with them the lame, the blind, the dumb, the maimed, and many others, and cast them down at his feet, at Jesus' feet, and he healed them, insomuch that the multitude wondered when they saw the dumb to speak, the maimed to behold, the lame to walk, and the blind to see, and they glorified the God of Israel. Okay, well look at the Old Testament. And the Yahuwah said unto him, who hath made man's mouth? Or who maketh the dumb, the deaf, or the seeing, or the blind? Have not I the Lord? Or I Yahuwah? Leviticus 22:22. Those blind or broken or cut or having an ulcer or eczema or scab, you do not bring to Yahuwah, nor make an offering by fire of them on the slaughter place to Yahuwah. And that right there is all through in the Hebrew. There is human sacrifice in the Old Testament. People that say that it's not, it is. As for a bull or a lamb that has any limb deformed or dwarfed, you do prepare as a voluntary offering, but for a vow it is not accepted. Do not bring to Yahuwah that which is bruised, crushed, torn, cut, nor do it in your land. And from a son of a stranger's hand do not bring any of these as the bread for Yahuwah, for their corruption is in them, and defects in them, they are not acceptable for you. So anybody that has a blemish, that's blind, that has problems, he didn't want anywhere around him. But yet, Jesus, on the other hand, was like, bring them to me, I'll heal them. So there's something not right there. I mean, that doesn't make any sense. The furnace actually belongs to Yahuwah. And Mount Sinai and thorny is smoke, all of it, and Yahuwah descends upon it in fire. And its smoke went up like the smoke of a furnace, and all the mountain trembled exceedingly. And Psalms 21:9, you make them as a furnace of fire, and the time of your presence. Yahuwah does swallow them up in his wrath, and the fire does consume them. Ezekiel 22:20, as they gather silver and bronze, and they lead them into the midst of the furnace to blow the fire on it and melt it. I'll gather you in my displeasure and my wrath, and I shall blow and melt you. And I shall gather you and blow on you with the fire of my wrath, and you shall be melted in the midst. As silver is melted in the midst of a furnace, so are you melted into the midst. And you shall know that I, Yahuwah, have poured out my wrath on you. Alright, now let's look at what does this say about the fiery furnace in Matthew 13. He answered, the one who sows the good seed is the Son of Man. The field is the world, and the good seed is the seed of the kingdom. The weeds are the sons of the evil one, and the enemy who sowed them is the devil. The harvest is the end of the age, and the reapers are the angels. Just as the weeds are gathered and burned with the fire, will be the end of the age. The Son of Man will send out the angels, and will gather out of the kingdom all the causes of sin and the lawbreakers, and throw them in the fiery furnace. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Then the righteous will shine like the sun in the kingdom of their Father. He who has an ear, let him hear. He said that a lot, and he was given a clue to really pay attention. But those that are not with the Father are going to be in the fiery furnace. Well, all through the Old Testament, Yahuwah has the fiery furnace. And they're supposed to be the evil ones. Earthly treasures versus heavenly ones. This was big too. I didn't realize how much of this was in there until I started looking at it. Deuteronomy 39, Yahuwah your God will make you abundantly prosperous in all your works of your hand, in the fruit of your womb, the fruit of your cattle, the fruit of your ground. For Yahuwah will again take delight in prospering you, as he took delight in your fathers. Okay, in Isaiah 61:6, but ye shall be named a priest of Yahuwah. Men shall call you ministers of Elohim. Ye shall eat the riches of the other nations, and their glory shall ye boast yourself. So you're going to get all the riches of everybody else. That's stealing. Psalm 17:14. From men which are in your hand, O Yahuwah, from men of the world. Notice the phrasing there, of the world, which have made their portion in this life, and whose belly you fill with the hidden treasure. They are full of children, and leave the rest of their substance to their babies. So they're going to have their fill of riches, just like the story of Lazarus, in this life. And then that's it. They leave everything to somebody else. Look at Luke 6:23. Rejoice in that day and leap for joy, for behold, your reward is great in heaven, not here on earth, for as their fathers did to the prophets. But woe to you who are rich, for you have received your consolation. That's what he was trying to tell them. It's like, he's contrasting constantly with what's in the Old Testament. I never realized how much until I started really digging into this. There's a story I shared with y'all about Lazarus. The rich man has died and was buried and in Hades. And Abraham told him, remember, in your lifetime you received your good things, during this life. So sometimes if we're not answered with the things we think we should get and all this kind of stuff, because I know a lot of people go to prosperity preachers and stuff for that, that's not what it's about. And if that's what it's about, then they've lost everything already anyway. I mean, it's not about having things, it's about loving Father, basically, and wanting to be a good person. Did they meet face to face or with Yahuwah or Father, or his Father never been seen? John 5:37, and the Father himself, which has sent me, and has borne witness of me. Ye have neither heard his voice at any time, nor seen his shape. But then we have in Genesis 32:30, and Jacob called on the name of the place Peniel, for I have seen God face to face, and my life is preserved. Okay, Deuteronomy 5:23 and 25. But when you heard the voice coming out of the darkness, again there's that word darkness, and saw the mountain blazing with fire, all the leaders and heads of the tribes came to me, and they said, Yahuwah our Elohim has let us see how great and glorious he is. We've heard his voice from the fire, and today we've seen that people can live even if Yahuwah speaks to them. Why should we die? This great fire will consume us. If we continue to hear the voice of Yahuwah, our Elohim, will die. They knew they couldn't be around him. He'd kill them. Exodus 33:11. And Yahuwah spoke to Moses face to face, as a man speaks to his friend. And he would return to camp, but his servant Joshua, son of Nun, a young man, did not leave the tent. So there you have it. It's like, was it face to face or not face to face? And I can see, I watch the rabbis, trying to tear down the New Testament. It shouldn't be too hard for them if they want to follow what's in the Old Testament to really trash the New Testament. But which one has the right message? It's pretty clear to me now. It's taken me a long time to get here to realize this, but there's a whole lot more, too, that I'm going to share with y'all. I have geography slides on the New Testament and the Old Testament. It all happened somewhere else besides Israel, which is really bizarre. And I mentioned that to one of the rabbis the other night in chat, and he shut his whole show down. He got so upset. I just mentioned 2 or 3 things, and that's all it took. But I'm gonna go through and try to get that recorded too, so y'all can have that to listen to. Here's another example. Does Father accept back a rebellious son, or does he stone him to death? Which would he prefer? Deuteronomy 21:18. If a man have a stubborn and rebellious son, which will not obey his voice, or the voice of his mother, and when they have chastised him, and not hearkened unto them, then shall his father and his mother lay hold of him, and bring him out into the elders of the city, and unto the gate of his place, and they shall say unto the elders of the city, This is our son, is stubborn and rebellious. We will not obey our voice. He is a glutton and a drunkard. And then all the men of the city shall stone him with stones, that he die. So shalt thou put evil away from among you, and all Israel shall hear and fear. So it's like, if a child becomes rebellious, let's just kill them and get rid of that problem. Okay, well, what happens in the New Testament? In Luke 15:17-24, but when he came to himself, he said, How many of my father's hired servants have more than enough bread, but I perish here in hunger? And that's another play on words, just talking about my Father, because I think it's more of a thing about the Heavenly Father. And I will say to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. See, he's talking about heaven, so it's got to be the Father in heaven. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Treat me as one of the sons of your hired servants. And he arose and came to his father. But while he was still a long way off, his father saw him and felt compassion, and ran and embraced him and kissed him. And the son said to him, Father, I have sinned against heaven and before you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son." But the father said to the servants, "Bring quickly the best robe and put it on him, and put a ring on his hand and shoes on his feet. And bring the fattened calf and kill it, and let us eat and celebrate. For this my son was dead and is alive again, and he was lost and is found." And they began to celebrate. So this is a loving father that's excited because he comes back, not going to kill him because he messed up. So this is just totally different message. Okay, here's another example. Does God tempt us or not tempt us? Okay, because all through the Old Testament, there's all kinds of stuff about Yahuwah tempting people or testing them, which is actually the same thing as tempt. Exodus 20:18-21, all the people heard the thunder and saw the lightning, and they heard the blast of the ram's horn and saw the mountain covered with smoke, and they shook with fear and stood at a distance. Then they said to Moses, "You speak to us and we'll listen, but don't let Elohim speak to us or we'll die." Moses answered the people, "Don't be afraid. Elohim has come only to test, so that you will be in awe of him and won't sin." The people kept their distance, while Moses went closer to the dark cloud where Elohim was. Okay, several things stand out about that. They heard the thunder and the lightning. What did the Son of Man say? He saw Satan fall like lightning. And they shook with fear. Okay, this is something, I mean, all in respect, yeah. All in respect of Father being Father and being over everybody is wonderful. But I don't think I want to worship something I'm deathly afraid of. I mean, that just doesn't make sense to me. And he actually wanted them to be afraid. And I don't think you can be browbeat into not sinning. I think you choose not to sin because you love Father, not because something's going to destroy you, you know. But I keep looking at these things and I'm going, oh wow, he was in a dark cloud. Again, there's the darkness. And they kept their distance. They were afraid if he even talked to them, they were going to die. Then when the Son of Man was telling us to pray, he said, "And lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil." So that's where that "don't lead us into temptation" comes from, and "get us away, deliver us from the evil" comes from. Okay, and then James said, and I don't know how much weight I carry in James's book, but he said that God can't be tempted with evil. He himself tempts no one. So, James is a book I'm going to be looking heavily at. But there's some major differences between the Old Testament and the New as far as what, you know. And I used to think that people carrying around the New Testament only had half of the scriptures. They may have the best half. You know, it's like I'm really looking at all this very, very strongly. And I'm seeing a lot of problems, you know, comparing the two. And I think it'd probably be very clear by the time you get to the end of this video how big of problems there are. Um, Isaiah 19:14. I didn't put a whole lot on here. I don't know. I couldn't decide what I wanted to say about this verse, but it disturbs me. Yahuwah has mixed a perverse spirit in their midst, and have led Mitzrayim astray in all their work, as a drunkard sways in his vomit. Why would a loving father mix us up with a perverse spirit. That doesn't make any sense to me. Why would he even want to do that? Here's the light and the dark. This is just, to me, it's just such a big contrast, okay? John 3:19. And this is the judgment. The light has come into the world, and the people love the darkness rather than the light, because their works were evil. For everyone who does wicked things hates the light, and does not come into the light, lest his works be exposed. But whoever does what is true comes to the light, so that he may be clearly seen that his works have been carried out in God. I have come into the world as light, so that whoever believes in me may not remain in darkness. So it's like a removal from darkness thing, okay? When we look at 2 Chronicles 6:1, then Solomon said, Yahuwah has said he would dwell in thick darkness. Isaiah 45:7, I form light and create darkness. I make well-being and create calamity. I am Yahuwah who does all these things. Deuteronomy 4:11, and he drew nigh and stood under the mountain, and the mountain burned with fire up to heaven. There was darkness, blackness, and tempest. Psalms 18:11, he made darkness his covering, his canopy around him, thick clouds dark with water. Everything is always dark, gloom, smoke, fire. It reminds me of Volcano God. When you that's the mental picture that I conjure up in my brain as an artist when I read the words, because I think I read different than most people because I see a mental picture as I'm reading. I don't know if everybody does that, but I always have. Okay, one race chosen or the whole world? I showed y'all the statistics on how tiny Judah is compared to the world. Okay, when John 13:34, a new commandment I give you, that you love one another just as I have loved you, you also are to love one another. He didn't say just love Judah, just love Israel, just love, you know, a Russian, just love this person or that person. He said love one another, period. Job 16:9. Does Yahuwah hate or love? He has torn me with his wrath and hated me. He has gnashed his teeth at me, and my adversary sharpens his eyes against me. And Job literally means the hated. Malachi 1:3. But Esau I have hated. I have lain waste his hill country and left his heritage to jackals of the desert. And now look at John 3:16. I mean, everybody knows this verse. For God so loved the world that he gave, not sacrificed, his only Son, that whoever believes in him should not perish but have eternal life. He so loved the world, not Jacob, not Israel, not just one tribe or the other tribe, the world. And it says gave, it does not say sacrifice. That I just cannot even stress enough. I don't think there was a human sacrifice. Deuteronomy 12:2. Completely destroy all the places, the nations which you are dispossessing. Serve their mighty ones on the high mountains and the hills and under every tree. And then Deuteronomy 7:6. For you are a set apart people to Yahuwah your Elohim. Yahuwah your Elohim has chosen you to be a people for himself, a treasured possession above all the peoples on the face of the earth. Now, That's not loving everybody. That's loving one little race. And that is what they think too when they are the chosen ones, and they cut jokes. I've seen comedians cut jokes that were Jewish, saying, "Well, one thing that the Jewish is taught," and I can't remember who did it, but it was on like Saturday Night Live, is that we're taught that we're chosen and we're special and we're better than everybody else, and they joke about it, but in reality, they really do think that. Um, 1 Chronicles 16:13, O seed of Israel, his servant, O children of Jacob, his chosen ones. Um, Genesis 19:13, for we are going to destroy this place because the cry against them has grown great before the face of Yahuwah, and Yahuwah has sent us to destroy it. And he was telling people to wipe out this country and that race and kill this one and kill that one, and I just don't think that's from Father. I just can't see it. This one was the one that I love or hate. 1 John 4:16 says, we have come to know and believe the love that God has for us. God is love, and whoever abides in loves, I'm sorry, and whoever abides in love abides in God, and God abides in him. So it's just love, okay? And by this is love perfected with us, so that we may have confidence for the day of judgment, because as he is also, we are in this world. And there's a lot of talk between of this world and not being of this world, and that's important too. There is no fear in love, but perfect love casts out fear. For fear has to do with punishment, and whoever fears has not been perfected in love. So are you to fear Yahuwah? That has to do with punishment, okay? And you hadn't been perfected in love if you're fearing something. We love because he first loved us. If anyone says, I love God and hates his brother, he's a liar. For he who does not love his brother whom he has seen cannot love God whom he has not seen. And this commandment we also have from him, whoever loves God must also love his brother. So you have to be a loving person Now let's look at Hosea 9:14-15. Yahuwah give them what they deserve. Make the women miscarry. Okay, going to cause women to miscarry. Or else make them unable to nurse their babies. All Ephraim's wickedness began in Gilgal. I hate the people there. I will force them out of my temple because they are wickedness, and I won't love them any more. All their officials are rebellious. And then again, we've got the Malachi 1:3, I hated Esau. It's like the two don't go together. You can't love and hate at the same time. In heaven or not in heaven. Okay? Deuteronomy 30:11-12. For this is the commandment, it is not in heaven, that you should say, who shall go up and for us to heaven and bring it to us. Psalms 17:14. From men by your hand, O Yahuwah, from men of the world, whose portion is in this life. I already read that one to you. But it's like, is it in heaven or is it down here on earth? Okay? Then Matthew 23:9, and call no man father on earth, for you have one Father who is in heaven. And then Matthew 23:13. But woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites, for you shut up the kingdom of heaven in the people's faces. They were teaching this Old Testament stuff. For you neither enter yourselves, nor allow those who would enter to go in. John 3:31. He who comes from above is above all. He who is of earth belongs to the earth and speaks in an earthly way. He who comes from heaven is above all. Is Yahuwah a man or a spirit? We're told in John 4:24, and I won't repeat now again the same verses, but God is spirit, and they that worship him in spirit must worship him in spirit and truth. Okay, then Exodus 13:3 says, Yahuwah is a man of battle. Yahuwah is his name. Clearly says he's a man, an ish in Hebrew, which is a man. This is a tough one. This is about the commandments, and this question has always puzzled me. When the Son of Man listed the commandments in Luke 18, he only listed, I think, 6. I say, do not commit adultery, do not murder, do not steal, do not bear false witness, honor your father and your mother. And the guy said, I have kept these from my youth. Well, then we have the 10 in Exodus 20. And so I looked at Matthew 22, and it said, you shall love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and the great and first commandment, and the second is you shall love your neighbor as yourself. On these 2 commandments depend all the law and the prophets. So I'm not sure if he was giving a different set of commandments or not, but it's something to consider about, something to think on. And it was really strange because when he gave him these, all the people were, that's when they saw the thunder, the flashes of lightning, the sound of the trumpet, and the mountain smoked. And Moses drew near to him in thick darkness where he was. So that makes me really suspicious about whether this is I don't know. But it's something to think about. I just put it in here because it's something I am still thinking about. Who actually lied? This is unreal. Somebody asked me this, and they said, "You don't realize who lied in Genesis 2 and 3?" I said, "Well, the serpent evident. No, go read it. He didn't lie." And I'm like, "What?" And I went and read it, and I tried to read it with. They said, "Read it with fresh eyes. Don't think about what you've been taught." Okay. All right, let's look at it. Genesis 2:16. And Yahuwah Elohim commanded the man, saying, You shall surely eat of every tree of the garden, but the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, and you shall not eat, for in the day that you eat of it, you shall surely die. But Elohim said, You shall not eat the fruit of the tree that is in the midst of the garden, neither shall you touch it, lest you die. Okay, that promise is like you're going to die that day or you're going to die when you touch it. One of the two. Alright, Genesis 3:4. But the serpent said to the woman, You will not surely die. For Elohim knows when you eat of it, your eyes will be open, and you will be like Elohim, knowing good and evil. Okay, here's the outcome. Genesis 3:7. The eyes of both of them were opened, and they knew that they were naked. And they sewed fig leaves together and put them on. Okay, who lied in that one? Yahuwah did. They didn't die that instant, but the serpent was correct. Their eyes were open. Okay? Genesis 3:22. And then Yahuwah Elohim said, Behold, the man has become like one of us, in knowing good and evil. Now, lest he reach out his hand and take also of the tree of life and eat and live forever. And he drove out the man. At the east of the garden he placed a cherub and a flaming sword that turned every way to guard the way to the tree of life. So not only did they not die, their eyes were open, just like the serpent said. And then Yahuwah gets upset and says, we got to cast them out, or they're going to take of the tree of life and live forever. Well, he never intended for them to live forever anyway then, if he didn't want them to eat the tree of life. Now, I'm not saying they didn't disobey, which they did, but I'm saying that it's kind of like what the Messiah said, be wise as serpents, but gentle as doves. Have the spirit to see what really happened here is what I think. And then the wisdom that the serpent was sharing was correct in this instance, because the outcome says that he told the truth and Yahuwah lied, which is really scary. Y'all can study that out. Now a guy didn't do it for me. He just sat there and said, oh, go look at it real careful. You're not looking at it. And sure enough, I've done a whole video on this thing and did not realize that before. Are we to be captive or set free? Now, when we look at the Old Testament, Exodus 12:29, at midnight, Yahuwah struck down all the firstborn in the land of Egypt, and the firstborn of Pharaoh who sat on the throne, the firstborn of the captive who was in the dungeon, and the firstborn of the livestock. Deuteronomy 21:10. When you go out to war against the enemy, and Yahuwah your God gives you them into your hand, you take them captive. He's telling them to make prisoners of them. And that first verse I just read, the Exodus, I'm getting tired because I'm like 2 hours and 47 minutes into this. But the Exodus 12:29, I want you to really think about that. You killed all the firstborn. Is that an evil thing to do or a good thing? I'd call it evil. Okay, let's keep moving because I'm really getting tired now. 2 Chronicles 28:5. Therefore Yahuwah gave him into the hand of the king of Syria, who defeated him and took captive a great number of his people and brought them to Damascus. He had also given the hand of the king of Israel, who struck him with great force. But it constantly, 2 Chronicles 28:8, the men of Israel took captive 200,000 of their relatives, women, sons, and daughters, and they took much spoil with them and brought the spoil to Samaria. That's stealing. They took them captive, made them prisoners, and took their items. Jeremiah 24. For thus says Yahuwah, behold, I will make you a terror to yourself and to all your friends. You shall fall by the sword of their enemy while you look on, and I will give all Judah into the hand of the king of Babylon. He shall carry them captive to Babylon, and shall strike them down with the sword. So he's going to let them be taken captive and be killed with the sword. Now, let's look at Psalm 66, 10 and 11. For you, O God, have tested us. You have tried us as silver is tried. You brought us into the net, and you laid a crushing burden on our backs. It's like the testing, the tempting, and then the catching in the net and being captive. Job 19:6. Know then that Elohim has put me in the wrong and closed his net about me. Got him captive. Okay. Now looking at Luke 4:18, the spirit of The Master is upon me because he has anointed me to proclaim the good news to the poor. He has sent me to proclaim liberty to the captives and recovering of sight to the blind, to set at liberty those who are oppressed, to claim the year of the Master's favor. So there's a setting free, a liberty. It's just totally different. Is fire from Father's Spirit. Leviticus 9:24, and there came a fire out of before Yahuwah, and it consumed upon the altar the burnt offering of the fat, which when all the people saw, they shouted and fell on their faces. Scared them. 1 Chronicle 21:26, and David built there an altar to Yahuwah and offered up a burnt offering and a peace offering, and cried to Yahuwah, and he answered him by fire out of heaven on the altar the whole burnt offering, and it was consumed, the whole burnt offering. Judges 6:21. Then the angel of Yahuwah put forth the end of the staff that in his hand, and touched the flesh and the unleavened cakes, and there rose up fire out of the rock and consumed the flesh and the unleavened cakes, and the angel of Yahuwah departed out of his sight. So we got 3 incidences of fire coming down. Then when we look at Luke 9, when James and them wanted to bring fire down, they were rebuked, and said, he turned and rebuked them and said, Ye know not what manner of spirit ye are of. For the Son of Man is not come to destroy men's lives, but to save. I already covered the rest of that, so I'm not going to do the whole thing, but it's like you get the idea. It's like we got fire versus no fire, you know. I think I covered this already too. Yeah, I did. I kind of got this in there twice. I'm sorry, but this is about this Father gives serpents their bread, and where he says, "Will in Luke 11, will instead of fish give them a serpent," and then it's in Numbers 21 where Yahuwah sends the poisonous snakes among the people and they bite them, and many of the Israelites died. And then he told Moses to make a snake. It's just such comparisons. Why would a supreme being need to repent? This has always bothered me. And why would he even need a house? Jeremiah 26:2. Thus says Yahuwah, stand in the courtyard of the house of Yahuwah, and speak to the cities of Judah, which have come to bow themselves in the house of Yahuwah. All the words that I command you to speak to them, do not diminish a word. If so, that they listen and each turn from their evil way, then I shall repent of the evil that I plan to do to them because of the evil of their deeds. So he's planning evil and then trying to get them to do something else, and then he'll repent. 1 Chronicle 21:15, and God had sent angel of Jerusalem to destroy it, and as he was destroying it, Yahuwah saw and repented for the evil, and said to the angel that he was destroying, Let it suffice thee, withhold thine hand. And the angel of Yahuwah stood by the threshing floor of Orah the Jebusite. So it's like he's constantly having to repent. And you know, the Son of Man said, none is good except the Father. He was telling us something there. are evil spirits from Father. Matthew 6:13, and lead us not into temptation, but deliver us from evil. Okay, he's offering to get us away from evil, but then like in 1 Samuel 16:14 through 6, the spirit of Yahuwah turned aside from Sheol, and an evil spirit from Yahuwah troubled him. And the servants of Sheol said to him, Look now, an evil spirit from the Elohim is troubling you. Please let our master command his servants who are before you to seek out a man who is skilled in prayer and lair. And it shall be that the evil spirit from Elohim is upon him, that he shall play with his hand, and you will be well. 1 Samuel 16:23, and it came to be, whenever the evil spirit from Elohim was upon Sheol, that David would take out his lyre and play with his hand, then Sheol would become refreshed and well, and the evil spirit would leave him. 1 Samuel 19:9, and an evil spirit from Yahuwah came upon Sheol, and sat in the house with his spear in his hand, and David was playing the lyre with his hand. So there's a direct evil spirit coming from Yahuwah. Ezekiel 20:25, and I also gave them up to laws that were not good, and right rulings by which they would not live. Now why would a loving father do that? Gave them up to laws that were not good, and right rulings by which they would not live. And then 2 Samuel 12:11, thus says Yahuwah, See, I am raising up an evil spirit against you from your house, and it shall take your wives before your eyes and give them to your neighbors, causing adultery. And he shall lie with your wives in the sight of his son, this son. That's just sick. Jeremiah 26:3, If so be they can listen and each turn from his evil way, then I shall repent of the evil I plan to do them, because of their evil of their deeds. So he's playing evil for evil. It's just nuts. When you really start looking at it, it's nuts. Does the Father send out truth or lies? John 14:16, and I will ask the Father, and he will give you another helper to be with you forever, the Spirit of the truth. I think that's what I'm beginning to really see. It's like I've moved through these progressions of seeing more and more and more, whom the world cannot receive, because it neither sees him nor knows him. You know him, for he dwells with you and will be in you. But the word that is written in their law must be fulfilled. They hated me without a cause. And notice there, right here, their law. I never noticed that before. And they hated me without a cause. And then John 15, but when the Helper comes, whom I will send to you from the Father, the Spirit of truth, who proceeds from the Father, he will bear witness about me. And there is something, I've gone through all the stuff with Paul. I realize that Peter's Abaddon. Seen so much, I feel like I've just been very blessed. But I could have at any point said, okay, enough. I'm just going to drop it. It's not real. It's all made up, But his words have stuck with me. They're just like they're glued to me. I'll be reading the Old Testament and something will pop to my head. Something will pop to my head. And I'm watching all these anti-missionaries, and they're attacking, and they don't even understand. I don't think they see it. I really don't. And I don't think they even know what they have in their hands. realizing all the geography stuff is really unreal. And I hope I get that out soon because I really want y'all to see that. But his words, they just stick in you. You can't get rid of them. I mean, once you hear them, and it's not because I was raised with it. I mean, I went to churches. My family didn't really go, but from the time I was big enough to well, before I could even walk across the street by myself, I had my mama take me. She didn't go, but she would take me across the street and let me go to the Baptist church, and I went every chance I could. But there's just something about this, and I'm not really even sure how to explain it to you. Just keep reading. If you're confused and you're worried, don't be. Just trust Father and just keep reading, because He's going to open it up. He's going to tell you. He's going to show you. Okay, let's look at this now. So over here on the left is the New Testament. We've got all this truth coming from Father. Then on the right over here, we've got all these lying spirits and stuff coming out from Yahuwah. 1 Kings 22:22. And Yahuwah said to him, by what means? And he said, I will go out and will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all the prophets. And he said, you are to entice him, and he shall succeed. Go out and do so. Now therefore, behold, Yahuwah has put a lying spirit in the mouth of all your prophets, and Yahuwah has declared disaster for you. Why would that happen? I mean, these things, I'm going to be honest, these things have always bothered me when I read them. And now even more so. 2 Chronicles 18:21-22, and he said, I will go out and will be a lying spirit in the mouth of all the prophets. And he said, you are to entice him, and you shall succeed. Go out and do so. And now therefore, Yahuwah has put a lying spirit in the mouth of your prophets, and Yahuwah has declared disaster concerning you. And these are two accounts of the same thing on the right. Does Father do good or evil? Okay. Mark 10:18, and Jesus said to them, why do you call me good? No one is good except the Father. Matthew 12:35, the good man brings forth what is good from the good treasures of his heart, and the wicked man brings forth what is wicked from wicked treasures. John 10:32, Jesus answered them, I have shown you many good works from the Father. For which of them are you going to stone me? Okay. And then let's listen to a little bit of the Old Testament. Lamentations 3:37. Who was in that spoke, and it came to be, has Yahuwah not commanded it? Do not the evils and the goods come out of the mouth of the Most High? Jeremiah 26:2. Thus says Yahuwah, stand in the courtyard of the house of Yahuwah, and speak to the cities of Judea, which come to bow themselves in the house of Yahuwah, all the words that I have commanded you to speak to them. Do not diminish a word. If so that they listen, and each turn from his evil way, I shall repent of the evil I plan to do to them, because of the evil of their deeds. Deuteronomy 30:15. See, I have set before you today good and death and evil. Life and good, and death and evil. So he's setting before them both of them. Joshua 23:15. But just as all the good things that Yahuwah your Elohim promised concerning you have been faithful for you, Yahuwah will bring upon you all the evil things until he destroys you from off of this good land that Yahuwah your Elohim has given you. So he's given you land, but he's going to destroy you off of it. That's kind of like Moses. He wandered around doing everything Yahuwah wanted for 40 years in the wilderness, and then he was kept from going into promised land because he struck a rock twice instead of once, or something like that. I mean, I'm like, if he couldn't make it, how will we ever make it? Judges 2:15. Wherever they went out, the hand of Yahuwah was against them for evil, as Yahuwah had spoken, and Yahuwah had sworn to them, and they were distressed greatly. So he went out as evil to them. And this is the part that really gets me. It's like, it sounds like when I read Deuteronomy 32 that he actually set up this Catholic system that I have brought to light when I was doing other videos to destroy people. And that's what I mean. It's like I've seen the deception, but then I didn't see who caused it. And he said, let me hide my face from them. Let me see what their end is be. For they are a perverse generation, children in whom there is no trusting. They made me jealous with what is not El, and they provoked me with their worthless matters. But I made them jealous by those who are no people. I provoked them with a foolish nation. For a fire has kindled in my wrath, and burns to the bottom of Sheol or Saul, and consumes the earth and its increase, and sets on fire the foundations of the mountains. I gather evils upon them, I use my arrows on them, wasted by scarcity of food, and consumed by the heat and bitter destruction, and the teeth of the beast I send upon them, with the poison of serpents of the dust. The sword bereaves from the outside, and fear from within. Both young man and maiden, nursing child with the man of gray hairs. I said I would blow them away. I would make a remembrance of them to cease among men. If I did not fear the enemy's taunt, lest their adversaries misunderstand, lest they say, our hand is high, and Yahuwah has not done this. So it has to do with, he was afraid of the enemy's taunt. Why would a supreme being be afraid of an enemy? For they are a nation lost to counsel. There's no understanding in them. If they were wise, they would consider this. They would consider their latter end. How would one chase 1,000 and put 10,000 to flight unless their rock had sold them and Yahuwah had given them up? So they were just given away. For their rock is not like our rock. Even our enemies are our judges. Their vine is the vine of Sodom, and their fields of Amorah. And Amorah actually means Mary or Maria. Their grapes are grapes of gall. Their clusters are bitter. Their wine is the poison of serpents and the fierce venom of cobras. So if you hadn't figured it out, what he's talking about is a Catholic church. Their fields are the fields of Mary, and their grapes are the grapes of gall that was given to the Son of Man. And their clusters are bitter. And Mary literally means bitter or rebellion. Judges 6:20. And the angel of God said to him, take the meat and the unleavened cakes and put them on this rock and pour the broth over them. And they did so. And the angel of the Lord reached out with the tip of the staff that was in his hand and touched the meat and the unleavened cakes, and fire sprang from it, the rock, and consumed the meat and the unleavened cake, and the angel of the Lord vanished from his sight. And it's just a lot of evil. A lot of evil. I mean, I think about this as, I don't know. And I touched on this verse already in 2 Samuel 19:9. But the one thing I didn't say was when you get on down here to verse 14, He was going to give his wives to his neighbors, and they're going to lay with his wives, which is adultery. Okay, then down here, further down, he's going to kill his son. I mean, for his sin, he's going to kill David's son. Instead of hurting him, he's going to hurt an innocent child. Just doesn't make sense. Let's see. Yeah, this is a very another place where I saw that Yahuwah is compared to the Satan falling like lightning. 2 Samuel 22:8, and the earth was troubled and quaked, the foundations of heaven were confounded and torn asunder, because Yahuwah was wroth with them. And there went up smoke in his wrath, fire out of his mouth, it devoured, his coals were kindled at it, and he bowed the heavens. Now I looked that word up, that's bent the heavens, and came down, was cast down, actually, when you look at the word in Thayer and all. And there was darkness under his feet. And when you look at the Hebrew, I was looking at Thayer, this is the Greek version, but when you look at the Hebrew version, it says he was cast down and made to go on foot. Now this one says there was darkness under his feet. And he rode the cherubs and did fly, and was seen upon the wings of the wind. Okay, and he made darkness his hiding place, his tabernacle round about him was darkness of water. He condensed it with the clouds of the air. At the brightness before him coals of fire were kindled. And Yahuwah thundered out of heaven, and the Most High uttered his voice. See, this shows two different people. Yahuwah thundered out of heaven, and the Most High uttered his voice. And he sent forth arrows and scattered them, and he flashed lightning and dismayed them. I think he was directly, when he said, I saw Satan fall like lightning, he was directly talking about that. Then in Zechariah 9:14 it says, and Yahuwah shall appear for them with his arrows and go forth like lightning. And the Master Yahuwah sound the shofar, and shall go with the whirlwinds of the south. This is stuff you really need to study out, because I really think this is correct what I'm showing y'all. I mean, I could be wrong, and I may change my mind as Father shows me other things, but right now, my heart is telling me that the truth lies with the Son of Man, or Jesus' words, not in the Old Testament. Okay, this is another comparison I made between Jeremiah 25:26 through 32 and Matthew 24:43 through 43, where he's talking about his master's delayed, and he begins to beat his fellow servants, and he eats and drinks with drunkards, and the master of the servant will come when he doesn't expect it, and will cut him in pieces, and put him with the hypocrites. In that place there will be weeping and gnashing of teeth. Okay, when you look at Jeremiah, the kings of the north, far and near, one after another, and the kingdoms of the world that are on the face of the earth, and after them the king of Babylon shall drink. And then you shall say to them, thus says Yahuwah of hosts, the Elohim of Israel, drink, be drunk, and vomit, and fall and rise no more. So it's the same weird thing about drinking and cutting in pieces. And if they refuse to accept the cup from your hand to drink, then you shall say to them, thus says Yahuwah of hosts, you must drink. And behold, I begin to work disaster in the city that is called by my name, and you shall go unpunished. You shall not go unpunished, for I am summoning a sword against all the inhabitants of the earth. Again, he's going to wipe out everybody, declares Yahuwah of hosts. You therefore shall prophesy against them all these words which I say to you. Yahuwah will roar from on high in his holy habitation, and utter his voice. He will roar mightily against his fold, and shout like those who tread grapes, against all the inhabitants of the earth. The clamor will resound to the ends of the earth. For Yahuwah has an indictment with the nations. He will enter into judgment with all flesh, and the wicked will be put to the sword, declares Yahuwah. Thus says Yahuwah of hosts, behold, disaster is going forth from nation to nation. The great tempest is swirling from the farthest parts of the earth. And see, Revelation 14:10 says, He also will drink the wine of Yahuwah's wrath, poured out full strength in the cup of anger, and he'll be tormented with fire and sulfur in the presence of the holy angels and the presence of the Lamb. So this is just a lot to take in, a whole lot. In this verse, Yahuwah literally orders cannibalism. Leviticus 26:29, and ye shall eat the flesh of your sons, and the flesh of your daughters you shall eat. And I shall destroy your high places, and cut down your sun pillars, and put your carcasses on the carcasses of your idols. And my being shall loathe you, gonna hate you. I shall make them eat flesh of their sons, and the flesh of their daughters, and the one another's flesh, in the siege and their distress, with which their enemies and those with them seek their lives, distresses them. And when I looked at my being shall loathe you. Well, being is a living being, like a person. So could he be a deity when he's calling himself a being? There's a lot of problems in here. This is the Jewish morning prayer. It sounds like exactly what the Son of Man was warning about. Okay, in Luke 18:9, and he told this parable to some of his who trusted in themselves, and they were righteous and treated others with contempt. 2 men went into the temple to pray, one a Pharisee and the other a tax collector. The Pharisee, standing by himself, prayed thus: God, I thank you that I am not like other men, extortionists, unjust, adulterers, or even like tax collectors. I fast twice a week, and I give tithes and all that I get. But the tax collector, standing far off, would not even lift up his eyes to heaven, but beat his breast, saying, God, be merciful to me, a sinner. I tell you, this man went down to his house justified rather than the other. For everyone who exalts himself will be humbled, but the one who humbles himself will be exalted. Okay, this is what most Jewish people pray from their Jewish prayer book, and if I scroll over it, you can see it's from mygewishlearning.com. Liturgical Prayers, the Siddur Prayer Book. This is what they say: Blessed are you, O God, King of the universe, who has not made me, and conclude respectively a goy, which means a Gentile, they say, a slave, or a woman. And this has been done since iniquity on down. So this was probably being done when these other words were spoken also. That's just sad. And Goy is actually Abram's people, because Goim is the descendants of Abram. It can also be a general term for people. I think it was Spanish in origin. Okay, this is the last slide. And this is what I see when I read, and it just scares me to death. I think that he was warning and warning and warning, and everybody was not paying attention. It's like in John 1:12 through 13. The correct path to the Father is what I call this. But to all who did receive him, who believed in his name, he gave the right to become children of God, who were born not of blood, you got blood and blood, nor of the will of the flesh, flesh and flesh, but of God. Very simple statement. I mean, and then see, Paul contradicts that because he says that therefore be imitators of God as beloved children, walk as Christ has gave up a fragrant offering of sacrifice to God. I don't think he was a sacrifice. I think Paul and them made that up. I think he was murdered. And he was murdered because he was telling them what they were worshiping was wrong. Exodus 29:15. And thou shalt also take one ram, and Aaron and his sons, and put their hands on the head of the ram. And thou shalt slay the ram, and thou shalt take the blood and sprinkle it around on the altar. That's what he's doing here. He's putting the blood on the altar horns. And they shall cut the one ram piece, and wash the innards of him and his legs, and put it in the pieces unto his head. And thou shalt burn the whole ram upon the altar, a burnt offering unto Yahuwah, a sweet savory, an offering made by fire unto Yahuwah. And this is modern day Jew here doing this. And this is what the Catholic Church sees. They're filling the cup out of him. I'm going to leave it here, and I'll do some more follow-up videos. I'm just going to be in prayer to the Father that people's eyes see and that their ears hear, and that we're not deceived, that we walk in the light and not the darkness. This really threw me for a loop. Y'all know if it's been this long since I talked to you, it was bad. But leave me comments if you want to. Love you guys, and thanks for listening.